Chapter 1261. Thank you for the reminder. You can act on your own now. Although Ning Cheng had no intention of going to the sacred tomb of the heaven and earth deity, he still thanked Peng Yu. Peng Yu had made a great contribution to finding the illusory sea crystal so quickly. Ning Cheng did not like Peng Yu's character, but he still had to thank him. After Peng Yu left, Ning Cheng brought out the starry sky wheel and said to Zhong Wuchen, "Now you control the starry sky wheel. We'll return from Jiaoyang Mountain as fast as possible and then head to heavens beyond immediately." Leaving so soon? Zhong Wuchen looked at Ning Cheng in doubt. To be honest, even for Zhong Wuchen, it was not easy to cross Jiaoyang Mountain. If possible, studying the 7 bridges spiritual technique here would be much better than heavens beyond. Once his 7 bridges sacred art and 5 bridges sacred art were comprehended, he might be able to find new opportunities in this domain. What else? Old Zhong, I've already told you that the most important thing for me now is to find the illusory sea crystal and the stainless water. Now that I've found the illusory sea crystal, I naturally have to look for the stainless water, Ning Cheng said in a cold tone. Well, I'll let you take priority, Zhong Wuchen said helplessly. After that, he seemed to have thought of something and said to Ning Cheng eagerly, "Daoist Ning, you should have asked Peng Yu. This is a realm where the laws of heaven and earth far surpass the void outside. Maybe it would be more reliable to find the stainless water here than in heavens beyond." Ning Cheng slapped his head. He was really muddle-headed. With a know-it-all like Peng Yu, he had let him go in vain. This place was full of dangers. As long as Peng Yu said that he knew about the illusory sea crystal, Ning Cheng could take him there. Peng Yu naturally would not say that he knew about the stainless water. Since Peng Yu did not say anything, Ning Cheng needed to interrogate him. Thinking of this, Ning Cheng did not have time to answer Zhong Wuchen's words. He just said, "Wait for me here." Then he disappeared in a flash. Daoist Peng Yu. Peng Yu was flying with excitement when Ning Cheng suddenly called out to him. His heart skipped a beat. In order to cross Jiaoyang Mountain, he had waited in the fallen immortal lane for many years. This time, he finally seized the opportunity and risked his life to follow Ning Cheng and the others. Just as he was about to show off his skills and go into seclusion to improve his strength, that terrifying senior Ning called out to him. Could it be that this expert suddenly changed his mind and wanted to force him to reveal the location of the treasure? Peng Yu didn't dare to escape, so he immediately stopped and asked with a bow, "Senior, do you still have something to talk to me about?" Ning Cheng showed a faint smile, as he stepped forward and patted Peng Yu's shoulder. "You don't have to worry about it, I just have something to ask you. If you know, just tell me. I'll give you some benefits. Of course, if you lie, don't blame me for being rude." When Peng Yu heard this, he finally heaved a sigh of relief and quickly replied, "Senior, please ask away. Apart from looking for the Mirage Sea Crossing crystal, I also came here to look for something else, and that is the stainless water. Have you ever heard of such a thing?" After Ning Cheng asked, he directly stared at Peng Yu. If this guy was lying, he would be able to tell right away. When he heard about the stainless water, Peng Yu's expression changed several times. Finally, he respectfully replied, "This junior does indeed know about the stainless water. Moreover, there really is stainless water here." What? Ning Cheng felt ecstatic. He didn't think that this Peng Yu would turn out to be such a lucky star. He had just helped him find the Mirage Sea Crossing crystal, and now there was news about the stainless water. "Hurry up and tell me, where is the stainless water? When the time comes, I'll give you some Tao Essence pills for healing and cultivation," Ning Cheng said without hesitation. Peng Yu pointed in the direction of the Mirage Sea Crossing crystal. "Senior, the stainless water is in the heaven and earth deity mound that I mentioned. It's just that it's too dangerous. Many years ago, almost no one came out after going in. After so many years, I'm not sure if it's as dangerous as before." Ning Cheng suddenly frowned. He didn't expect that the stainless water was in the heaven and earth deity mound that Peng Yu mentioned. Seeing Ning Cheng remain silent, Peng Yu felt very worried. He worried that Ning Cheng would take him to the heaven and earth deity mound and then ask him to continue leading the way. Senior, the stainless water is formed from the stainless land. In this place, there is no space, no time, no heaven and earth laws, no grand Dao Dao charm, and nothing else. Every drop of water is formed from the innate aura after the creation of the world and is extremely difficult to obtain. The heaven and earth deity mound has a powerful Dao charm, which makes it difficult for ordinary people to enter. However, there is a lot of stainless water left. Moreover, the stainless water has to be stored in a bottle made from the Mirage Sea Crossing crystal. Otherwise, it will be contaminated, Peng Yu explained carefully. Ning Cheng felt even more puzzled. Was Peng Yu lying to him? Although the stainless water was indeed precious and scarce, it shouldn't be this precious, right? If Peng Yu's words were true, then even if he went to heavens beyond of heaven and earth, he wouldn't be able to find the stainless water. Ning Cheng's face suddenly sank. Since you knew that there was stainless water here, why didn't you tell me before? When Zhong Wuchen issued the task, he had issued the Mirage Sea Crossing crystal and the stainless water together. It seemed that Zhong Wuchen had not misjudged Peng Yu. Peng Yu knew that there was stainless water here, but he didn't say anything. Zhong Wuchen obviously didn't care about his matters. If this guy hadn't wanted to stay here to cultivate, he probably wouldn't have asked Peng Yu again. None of these old things were easy to deal with. Each and every one of them was cunning. Peng Yu's face turned pale, and he quickly spoke up in a respectful tone, "This junior really has his own difficulties. With this junior's strength, if I followed senior to the heaven and earth god's tomb mound, I'm afraid that it would be a disaster." At this point, Peng Yu didn't wait for Ning Cheng to continue asking. He quickly took out a jade strip and handed it to Ning Cheng. "Senior, this is the location of the heaven and earth god's tomb mound from this junior's memory. Although this junior doesn't know the specific location of the stainless water, I can vaguely feel that it is at the edge of the god's tomb mound and the god's end river." Ning Cheng grabbed the jade strip and looked at it. The jade strip's engravings were quite detailed. "Peng Yu, the stainless water I know doesn't seem to be so precious, right? According to what you said, how many people can use the Mirage Sea Crossing crystal to preserve the stainless water?" Ning Cheng still asked the doubts in his heart. Peng Yu quickly replied, "Stainless water is very rare, but it's not that it doesn't exist. Many people can find stainless water in some mystic realms, forbidden areas, or sparsely populated places. It's just that even if they found the stainless water, they couldn't find the Mirage Sea Crossing crystal. Therefore, they could only use ordinary jade bottles and restrictions to collect the stainless water. Although such stainless water is also called stainless water, it has been contaminated. It doesn't even have 1% of the true stainless water's efficacy." Ning Cheng finally understood. He guessed that Zhong Wuchen's friend had failed. Apart from not obtaining the heaven and earth law fruit, it was most likely because he didn't obtain the pure stainless water. When three people walk together, there must be someone to learn from. This sentence really couldn't be any more true. A little Peng Yu had taught him so many things. If he hadn't met Peng Yu, even if he could find the stainless water in the mysterious yellow heavens beyond, it would have been contaminated, just like Peng Yu said. Seeing Ning Cheng's expression turn a little ugly, Peng Yu spoke up with even more caution, "Senior, the stainless water is ranked third among the 10 innate waters. Naturally, it is extremely precious. If it were so easy to preserve, it wouldn't be ranked third." "You said that the stainless water is ranked third among the 10 innate waters?" Ning Cheng asked in amazement. He had only heard about the stainless water, but he had never heard of the stainless water that was ranked third. Peng Yu nodded affirmatively. "Yes, the pure stainless water is indeed ranked third among the 10 innate waters. The most precious thing about the stainless water is that it is difficult to preserve." This Peng Yu really knew a lot of things. Ning Cheng took out a few bottles of Dao pills and handed them to Peng Yu. "Dao friend Peng Yu, this is for you. Thank you for your guidance. I also have a question to ask you." "Of course, it doesn't matter if you know or don't know." Peng Yu quickly took the jade bottles. "Many thanks, senior. This junior will tell you everything he knows." Ningqing asked, I've heard about the 10 innate waters, but I still don't know what the 10 innate waters are. If you know, please enlighten me. When Pengyu heard this question, he immediately relaxed. This junior does know about the 10 innate waters. This junior had devoured the remnant soul's memories. As for whether it's correct or not, this junior isn't sure. The first of the 10 innate waters is the 5 elements spirit water, the second is the crossing Tao water, the third is the stainless water, the fourth is the tranquil water, the fifth is the seeking heart water, the sixth is the weak water, the seventh is the unfixed black water, the eighth is the underworld river stagnant water, the ninth is the Xiao Xiao Yi water, and the 10th is the first essence heavy water. Sure enough, he had never heard of many of them. Ningqing was just about to speak when he suddenly saw a powerful aura of laws condensing in the distance. Following that, these auras of laws began to collide and explode. Even Ningqing, who was very far away, could clearly feel the terrifying spatial fluctuations. Ningqing was also a battle-hardened veteran. These powerful clashes and explosions of laws were obviously caused by a battle between top powerhouses. Judging from the intensity of these laws, Ningqing felt sure that none of the people fighting were any weaker than him. Pengyu also felt the powerful spatial fluctuations, causing his expression to change slightly. Senior, the place where the clash of laws erupted was the heaven and earth deities' tomb mound. From the looks of it, someone had already gone to the heaven and earth deities' tomb mound. Ningqing called out to Pengyu, you go first. I have something to do. See you later. After saying this, Ningqing's figure flashed and disappeared from Pengyu's sight. The heaven and earth deities' tomb mound might be huge, but it definitely didn't have many stainless water. Once someone found the stainless water, it wouldn't be a matter of trading it back, but the stainless water would most likely be destroyed. Dao friend Ning, did you ask for any news? Zhong Wuchen, who was standing on the starry sky wheel and waiting for Ningqing, saw Ningqing return and asked from afar. Go to the heaven and earth deities' tomb mound immediately. Ningqing replied without hesitation. Chapter 1262. Okay. When Zhong Wuchen heard Ningqing's words, he didn't hesitate and directly controlled the starry sky wheel to rush towards the heaven and earth deity mound. Pengyu was afraid of the heaven and earth deity mound, but Zhong Wuchen didn't care about it. Pengyu was right. The heaven and earth deity mound and the mirage sea crossing crystal were right next to each other. After the starry sky wheel bypassed the coral reef where the mirage sea crossing crystal was located, it only took half a day to rush out of the Jiaoyang Sea and enter a violent land. That's right, whether it was Ningqing or Zhong Wuchen, after coming to this place, they only felt one kind of violent feeling. Whether it was their own grand Tao charm or their own consciousness, they both felt irritable and difficult to suppress. In this place, there was an inexplicable bloodlust and killing impulse. What a messy heaven and earth law. Zhong Wuchen sucked in a breath of cold air and said while standing on the starry sky wheel. Ningqing understood what Zhong Wuchen meant. After entering this place, there were messy Tao charms everywhere and broken laws everywhere. These broken laws and Tao charms collided with each other from time to time, stirring up all kinds of Tao charm storms. From time to time, all kinds of broken laws and Tao charm storms would hit the starry sky wheel, causing the starry sky wheel to tumble and shake in the void. After Ningqing entered the Jiaoyang mountain, all he saw were dilapidated places. Ravines crisscrossed, mountains and rivers rolled back, and traces of battles between powerhouses were everywhere. But in this place, Ningqing felt a different aura. This place was obviously a battleground as well. Wherever one looked, there were also broken mountains and rivers everywhere. Fragments of magic treasures and piles of bones were everywhere, and there were even many irregular tombs. These tombs were strangely shaped and definitely not man-made, but formed by the Tao charm of the deceased after they died. But these weren't the reasons why Ningqing felt shocked. Ningqing was mainly shocked by the traces of spirit techniques left behind. The ravines on the periphery of the Jiaoyang mountain also had some residual Tao charm. After countless years, these Tao charms' power had weakened and didn't pose a threat to people. Instead, it gave people some benefits. Moreover, The traces of battles left behind in this place contained extremely powerful Dao charm law power. Ning Cheng was sure that as long as he accidentally touched these traces of spirit techniques, he would trigger these law-based spirit techniques. This was like a landmine that could be stepped on if one wasn't careful. Such a terrifying place, Ning Cheng thought as he sucked in a deep breath. This was only the periphery. Once they entered, how terrible would it be? Not to mention the remnant law Dao charm spirit techniques on the ground, even the space where the starry sky will resided was also unstable. Broken laws crisscrossed and collided with one another from time to time, causing a storm of Dao auras to form continuously. Ning Cheng was just about to stop controlling the starry sky will to move forward when he felt a huge whirlpool of power sweeping towards him. Two black blade lights shot out from the maelstrom and directly tore through the starry sky wheel's defensive restrictions. Ning Cheng didn't have much time to think and immediately brought out the Good Fortune Divine Spear. The Good Fortune Spirit Spear's spear patterns and the two black blade light vortexes clashed together, and a huge amount of Dao charm power slammed into Ning Cheng's chest. Ning Cheng retreated more than a dozen steps before finally dissipating the Dao charm power of the two black blade lights. The starry sky will tumbled a few more times in space before stabilizing. This time, even Zhong Wuchen's face darkened. He guessed that Peng Yu would not speak carelessly. The mound of the god of heaven and earth mound was very dangerous. He didn't expect the danger to reach this point. Just an ordinary remnant spirit technique had already put the two of them in a difficult position. Once they encountered the remnant Dao charm of a top-grade spirit technique, they wouldn't have much chance of survival. Ning Cheng motioned for Zhong Wuchen to come down from the starry sky wheel and put away the starry sky wheel. This place is very dangerous. The spirit technique that the starry sky will encountered was only a remnant from ancient times. It doesn't have any active consciousness. If we encounter such a powerful spirit technique, even if it's just 1,000th of the remnant, I'm afraid we wouldn't be able to survive. Zhong Wuchen no longer had the mood to comprehend the Seven Bridges spirit technique. Ning Cheng understood Zhong Wuchen's meaning. The two passive remnant Dao charm spirit techniques also made it difficult for him to deal with them. Once they encountered a powerful remnant law spirit technique with a trace of consciousness, it would put them in even more danger. Old Zhong, if you think it's dangerous, you can go out first and wait for me in the Jiaoyang Sea. After I get out of here, I'll go to the Jiaoyang Sea to find you. Ning Cheng said without hesitation. Ning Cheng had a vague hunch in his heart that the Jiaoyang Sea had dried up. Although it looked calm, it definitely wasn't a truly safe place. Once something dangerous happened, it might not be any weaker than the Heaven and Earth Spirit Tomb Mound. Zhong Wuchen snorted. I, Zhong Wuchen, have crossed the void. What haven't I encountered? You want me, Zhong Wuchen, to retreat with just a trivial god's graveyard mound? Dream on. Dao friend Ning, you lead the way. Wherever you go, I, Zhong Wuchen, will follow. For Zhong Wuchen, he didn't have to follow Ning Cheng or continue to stay in the god's graveyard mound. The Seven Bridges Realm book on Ning Cheng was the most important thing for him. If Ning Cheng said, Old Zhong, I'll give you the Seven Bridges Realm book. You can stay in the Jiaoyang Sea to comprehend it and return it to me after I get out. Zhong Wuchen agreed to Ning Cheng's words without hesitation. But he also knew that he could only think about it. Ning Cheng would never hand over the Seven Bridges Realm book to him. After experiencing the remnant law spirit technique attack, Ning Cheng and Zhong Wuchen both became more cautious. These remnant law spirit techniques were no different from the previous collapse of laws for Ning Cheng. The previous collapse of laws was the result of the remnant spirit techniques' fragmented laws condensing to a certain extent before suddenly triggering. It's just that they rarely encountered this kind of collapse. They had only encountered it once after crossing the Jiaoyang mountain. In the Heaven and Earth God's graveyard mound, this kind of remnant law spirit technique collapse or sudden triggering was a common occurrence. The two had only walked for less than half a day when they were bombarded by the remnant law spirit technique several times. Whether it was Ning Cheng or Zhong Wuchen, they both suffered some minor injuries. Fortunately, Ning Cheng didn't have much, but he had a lot of healing medicinal pills. Later, Zhong Wuchen directly brought out a giant bell engraved with quaint lines, while Ning Qing brought out the everlasting Blue Thunder City. The defensive effect of Zhong Wuchen's giant bell wasn't any weaker than Ning Cheng's everlasting Blue Thunder City. Ning Qing even suspected that Zhong Wuchen's surname was Zhong because of this weapon. Seeing Ning Qing looking at his quaint giant bell, Zhong Wuchen smiled, "Dao friend Ning, you don't have to envy my giant bell. If your everlasting Blue Thunder City had an artifact spirit, it would definitely be much better than my dustless bell." Sure enough, Ning Qing chuckled, "Old Zhong, I didn't expect your name to be your weapon. You really have a personality." Zhong Wuchen showed a smug smile, "Of course. Don't look at how your everlasting Blue Thunder City is of a higher grade than my dustless bell. If you wanted to exchange the everlasting Blue Thunder City for my dustless bell, I definitely wouldn't agree." Ning Qing felt disdainful. Exchanging the everlasting Blue Thunder City for your giant bell? Stop dreaming. Only you, Zhong Wuchen, could think of such a thing. After the two brought out their flight-type weapons, the chances of them getting injured dropped sharply. Some ordinary lore-related spirit techniques would be blocked by the everlasting Blue Thunder City or the dustless bell. At this moment, Ning Qing finally had time to observe the tombs condensed from Dao Charm on the ground. There were many tombs condensed from Dao Charm, but there were even more bones on the ground. From this, one could tell how many powerhouses had died here during the Great War. Picking up some of the weapon fragments, Ning Qing found that they were made from materials that he couldn't even imagine. If he had the heart, he could just pick up the weapon fragments here and sell them in the Void City. That way, he could make a lot of money. Ning Qing had already set his sights high at this moment. As such, he didn't even put these weapon fragments in his eyes. Zhong Wuchen only had the 7 Bridges spirit technique in his eyes. He even gave Ning Qing the fragment of the Good Fortune indestructible axe. As such, he didn't even bother to look at the weapon fragments here. Ning Qing carefully moved forward according to the jade strip map given to him by Peng Yu. Another 4 or 5 days passed by. On this day, the everlasting Blue Thunder City protecting Ning Qing suddenly shook violently. Ever since he refined the everlasting Blue Thunder City, such a situation had never happened. Ning Qing was surprised in his heart, and immediately stopped. Zhong Wuchen also saw Ning Cheng's Blue Thunder City shaking violently, and the Dao Charm aura seemed to have become a little chaotic. What's going on? Ning Qing tried to control the everlasting Blue Thunder City. One had to know that he had refined the everlasting Blue Thunder City before. If he couldn't control the weapon he had refined, what could he do in a battle? Zhong Wuchen suddenly spoke up with a solemn voice, "Dao friend Ning, your everlasting Blue Thunder City, just like your starry sky wheel, doesn't have an artifact spirit. The everlasting Blue Thunder City is a famous weapon from the ancient times. Even in low-level positional planes, many people have heard of such a powerful treasure. Could it be?" Ning Qing didn't wait for Zhong Wuchen to finish and understood what Zhong Wuchen meant. "Old Zhong, do you mean that my everlasting Blue Thunder City's artifact spirit is in this heaven and earth spirit tomb?" Zhong Wuchen nodded. "This is the ancient battlefield, and the people fighting here are all powerhouses among powerhouses. It's not a special thing for these powerhouses to possess the everlasting Blue Thunder City. If you broke the positional plane and blew away your everlasting Blue Thunder City, it wouldn't be surprising if you left the artifact spirit of the everlasting Blue Thunder City in this place." Ning Qing didn't answer Zhong Wuchen's words. Instead, his spiritual consciousness seeped into the everlasting Blue Thunder City, trying to feel the exact location of the shaking everlasting Blue Thunder City. After half an incense stick worth of time, the shaking of the everlasting Blue Thunder City grew more and more intense. Ning Qing finally felt the exact location and spoke to Old Zhong without hesitation. "Old Zhong, you should be right. The artifact spirit of the everlasting Blue Thunder City must be here. Both the artifact spirit and the everlasting Blue Thunder City can feel each other's existence. That artifact spirit must have some reason to not be able to get away. Let's head over now." Zhong Wuchen agreed without hesitation. "Naturally, it's up to you. If you want to fight, I, Zhong Wuchen, will definitely help you. But you have to hurry up. The most precious thing about the everlasting Blue Thunder City is not the Blue Thunder City, but the artifact spirit. Even without Zhong Wuchen's words, Ning Qing already knew what the everlasting Blue Thunder City needed the most. He immediately rushed out, and his speed more than doubled. Once the everlasting Blue Thunder City gained an artifact spirit, his defensive strength would increase exponentially. He must not let the artifact spirit of the everlasting Blue Thunder City fall into the hands of others. Chapter 1263. Zhong Wuchen naturally followed behind Ning Qing. After an incense stick worth of time, Zhong Wuchen spoke up from behind, "Dao friend Ning, someone has walked through this path before." Ning Qing understood what Zhong Wuchen meant. After entering the heaven and earth deity tomb, they found Dao charm vortexes everywhere, along with some remnant spirit techniques. But now, after walking for such a long time, they had yet to encounter any remnant spirit technique laws. This could only mean one thing: someone had walked through this path before. Even if there were some remnant spirit technique laws, it meant that someone had already triggered them. It was as if the road was filled with landmines and had already been trampled over. The everlasting Blue Thunder City shook even more violently. Half an hour later, thunder rumbled within Ning Chang's and Zhong Wuchen's spiritual consciousness. Ning Chang's spiritual consciousness saw a thunder swamp, which was exactly the same as the place where Ning Chang had first discovered the everlasting Blue Thunder City. The only difference was that the intensity of the thunder here was more than 10,000 times stronger than the thunder in the Law's Way. The flashing thunder completely covered the swamp, and in the middle of the swamp were restrictions. The thunder was even more tyrannical, and countless Dao charm attacks bombarded the swamp. Moving a little closer, Ning Qing finally saw it clearly. It was a little doll made of thunder, less than a foot tall, and a wide blue thunder robe wrapped around the little doll. The place where the little doll stood had a huge thunder crater, and the terrifying thunder Dao charm in the thunder crater couldn't penetrate it even with Ning Chang's spiritual consciousness. 2 black arrows passed through the little doll's body and imprisoned it within the restrictions, making it unable to move. At this time, the little doll kept screaming and rushing towards Ning Chang. Ning Chang looked at the little doll surrounded by thunder and realized that it was the everlasting Blue Thunder City's artifact spirit. There were 2 middle-aged men trapping the little baby. The 2 of them kept condensing Dao runes and bombarding the little baby's body. The little baby formed by the green lightning kept stirring up the lightning Dao runes in the lightning pit to resist. The thunder in the swamp looked amazing, but Ning Qing knew that this little doll wasn't an opponent for the 2 men. If it wasn't for the fact that there was an extremely powerful lightning pit in the middle of the swamp, or if it wasn't for the fact that the 2 of them didn't want to kill the baby would have been killed long ago. "Brother Zhengzhou, it's about time. Once I shoot this arrow, this thunder spirit won't be able to activate the thunder Dao ripples within the thunder pit to resist." The middle-aged man who spoke was holding a purplish-red longbow. There was a black arrow on the longbow. The middle-aged man had a long face like a horse, and his ears were as sharp as an elf's. "All right, but after this, Brother Tianqi, don't forget to lend me a hand." The middle-aged man opposite the horse-faced man immediately responded. This person was much more handsome than the horse-faced man. As he stood in the air above the lightning swamp, he gave off a feeling of elegance. The horse-faced man laughed and said without hesitation, "Of course. Ever since Brother Zhengzhou and I joined hands, we have never failed. Even if we can't find that place in the end, our harvest here is enough." Ning Qing didn't know who these 2 people were, but he could tell from the traces of Dao runes on them that they were definitely not weaker than Feng Huangmei of Heavens Beyond. If Feng Huangmei was a creation realm expert, then these 2 people were also creation realm experts. The purplish-red longbow was pulled back, and the heaven-earth killing aura around the lightning swamp instantly condensed. The endless killing intent made the thunder spirit, which had been imprisoned by the 2 black arrows, scream. "Hey, someone's here!" the handsome middle-aged man exclaimed. The horse-faced man also saw Ning Cheng and Zhong Wuchen coming over, but he directly ignored their cultivation. Ning Cheng was only at the early stage primordial chaos realm, yet he dared to come to the divine tomb of heaven and earth. Zhong Wuchen's cultivation was slightly higher, but he was only at the half-step creation realm. He was also an ant here. The violent killing intent gathered more and more, and the artifact spirit, which relied on the thunder pit to protect itself, screamed even more shrilly. At this moment, the artifact spirit also knew that if this arrow fell, even if it didn't kill it, it would lose its ability to use the thunder pit and get taken away. Not to mention that the other party was currently at the creation realm. Even if the other party had crossed the creation realm, Ning Cheng wouldn't hesitate to take action against the Blue Thunder City's artifact spirit. The creation divine spear tore through space, rolled up thousands of spear patterns, and blasted towards the horse-faced man. This spear wasn't the traceless spirit technique, but the second stage of the Spear Dao spirit technique's age realm's 3 stages. Time flies like an arrow, time flies like a shuttle. Since comprehending the first 2 stages of the age realm's 3 stages, it was Ning Cheng's first time using this spirit technique against an enemy. The reason was simple. The other party was at the creation realm. At least for now, he still looked up to the third step Dao confirming realm. If not for the slow activation of the 5-colored star splitter arrow, Ning Cheng would have already brought it out. Time passed quickly, and people grew old. Time flies like a shuttle, everything was ethereal, everything turned illusory, as if everything was fake. Time was fake, and space was also fake. The horse-faced cultivator felt that his appearance had aged at this moment. The next moment, he would reach the end of his life. Space disappeared, and time disappeared. Maybe space still existed, and maybe time still existed. It was just that space had distorted, and so had time. Everything in front of him turned unreal under this spear. The time and gray years that were once depicted in the past were now seen by his eyes. This spear swept away all space-time, leaving behind only killing intent. This was a top-grade time spirit technique. The horse-faced cultivator reacted the first time. The black arrow no longer cared about imprisoning the everlasting Blue Thunder City's artifact spirit. Instead, it changed directions and shot towards Ning Cheng. If this arrow had been aimed at Ning Cheng, then even if Ning Cheng could block it, he would have ended up injured. It's just that this arrow's killing intent wasn't aimed at Ning Cheng, but at the artifact spirit. Due to the hurried change of direction, the killing power and killing intent within it had already dissipated by more than half. Boom! A terrifying and violent Dao rhyme exploded. The surrounding lightning Dao rhyme was torn apart by this Dao rhyme explosion. The distorted spacetime disappeared, and everything became real. Ning Cheng's age spirit technique's second stage burst out, causing the black arrow to temporarily change directions and lose the initiative. Under this display of strength and weakness, the difference between the two was clear. Despite this, the black arrow still managed to break through Ning Cheng's age spirit technique's second stage. The Good Fortune Divine Spear's spacetime Dao Charm directly swallowed the horse-faced cultivator's black arrow's arrow intent Dao Charm. Just as the law vortex formed, it dissipated under the Good Fortune Divine Spear. The swamp where the two fought even tore open a huge ravine. The Good Fortune Divine Spear's killing intent Dao Charm soared at this moment. In just an instant, it evolved from a low-rank spirit artifact to a middle-rank spirit artifact. Is this a weapon that can evolve? This time, Zhong Wuchen and the handsome middle-aged man exclaimed at the same time. Even if they were experienced and knowledgeable, they had never seen such a powerful weapon that could evolve. It wasn't that there weren't any weapons that could evolve, but under normal circumstances, evolving to a low-rank spirit artifact was already the limit. But now, Ning Cheng had only exchanged one move with his opponent, and his spear had already evolved to a middle-rank spirit artifact. This was simply heaven-defying. The horse-faced man suffered a small loss due to the sudden attack. His Dao Charm immediately scattered, his blood and qi surged, and even his sea of consciousness buzzed. However, he didn't care about it at all. Instead, his gaze fell on Ning Cheng's Good Fortune Divine Spear. This spear was too powerful. If he could obtain the Thunder Spirit and use it as the spear's artifact spirit, what would happen to his weapon? Thinking of this, the horse-faced man trembled with excitement. Ning Cheng took in a deep breath. He knew very well that there was still a gap between him and the horse-faced man. Don't look at how he had the upper hand just now. That was because the horse-faced man hadn't targeted him. Ning Cheng was also pleasantly surprised by the sudden evolution of the Good Fortune Divine Spear. He knew that the Good Fortune Divine Spear could evolve. Usually, the Good Fortune Divine Spear would absorb the Tao Charm aura of heaven and earth to improve. This time, he used the second stage of the Age Spirit technique. The Good Fortune Divine Spear unexpectedly swallowed the opponent's Black Arrow's Tao Charm aura. It was a pleasant surprise to use this to evolve. From this, it could be seen that the higher the level of the Good Fortune Divine Spear's Spear Tao Charm aura, the better it would be for the Good Fortune Divine Spear to devour the Tao Charm aura. An ant dared to sneak up on me. The horse-faced man's face turned cold and gloomy. The handsome male cultivator also laughed. Brother Tianqi, it should be 2 ants. 2 ants at the second step, yet they dared to sneak up on us. Brother Tianqi, if I'm not wrong, the everlasting Blue Thunder City is protecting the primordial chaos flying ant. The thunder spirit you imprisoned in the thunder pit should be the artifact spirit of the everlasting Blue Thunder City. Congratulations to Brother Tianqi for not only obtaining the artifact spirit but also the Thunder City. I don't want anything else. I think this ant's long spear is good, so this long spear is mine. The man addressed as Brother Tianqi had an ugly expression on his face. He could see that even if the artifact spirit and the everlasting Blue Thunder City were given to him, it wouldn't be as good as this long spear that had just advanced to middle grade spirit artifact. However, he couldn't say anything. After all, he couldn't take all the benefits. At this moment, Zhong Wuchen also laughed. 2 pseudo-world realm cultivators dare to pretend to be third-step experts, bah. If I, Zhong Wuchen, wanted to reach the pseudo-world realm, I would have reached the creation realm millions of years ago. Why would I wait until today? I think you came here to look for opportunities to break through to the creation realm. I, Zhong Wuchen, will give you a piece of advice. He kept these shameless thoughts to himself. The truth might sound unpleasant to the ears, but I, Zhong Wuchen, still want to speak the truth. That is, ever since you used this self-deceiving method to reach the pseudo-world realm, this is the end for you. Old Zhong, how do you know that these 2 are pseudo-third-step experts? Ning Cheng asked in doubt. Although Ning Cheng had a guess in his heart, he couldn't be sure. To be honest, in Ning Cheng's opinion, no matter how strong he was at primordial chaos, he wouldn't be able to fight against a third-step expert. In fact, when he and the horse-faced expert exchanged a move, although he was weaker than the other party, the gap between them was not that huge. Chapter 1264. Zhong Wuchen had a look of lingering fear on his face. I've seen a true third-step expert. Their realm can make you not know how to deal with it. No, it should make you despair. If you don't believe me, wait for me to fight with this guy and show you. As he spoke, Zhong Wuchen suddenly took out his dustless bell, sweeping up powerful Tao rune laws in the air. Those shattered laws were blasted apart by this powerful Tao rune law. In just a few moments, Zhong Wuchen's dustless bell had condensed a virtual interface that far surpassed a domain. Fellow Taoist Ning, do you see this? This is a false world that I condensed. Although I didn't go to the Tao validation false world, it doesn't mean that I can't condense such a thing. When my fake world collides with him, you will know that I am in no way weaker than him, Zhong Wuchen said smugly as he looked at the fake world that the dustless bell had created. The handsome middle-aged man, who had originally wanted to make a move, stopped when he heard Zhong Wuchen's words and saw the dustless bell that Zhong Wuchen had taken out. He even frowned. This was not the first time someone had said that they were at the false world realm. This was the first time someone had said that they were at the false world realm, and they were only at the primordial chaos realm. Moreover, the reason why they were false worlds was because they fused with false Tao. If they could easily crush him, they wouldn't take such words to heart. In fact, all the creation realm experts in heavens beyond were probably no match for that primordial chaos sacred emperor. This time, they had crossed the Jiao mountain to find out if their third step was a fake realm or something else. If not for the example of the primordial chaos sacred emperor in the beyond of heaven and earth, he would not have taken Ning Cheng, a mere primordial chaos sacred emperor, seriously. Now, Zhong Wuchen's words made him more vigilant. Could an ordinary primordial chaos divine emperor withstand Mao Tianqi's arrow even if it was a sudden attack? Coupled with the fact that Zhong Wuchen's cultivation was far superior to Ning Cheng's, and that Zhong Wuchen had condensed such a powerful false realm, Ning Cheng no longer felt fear in his heart. May I ask where you are from, fellow Taoist? I am Zhiyuan Zhengzhou. Thinking of this, the handsome man did not attack immediately. Instead, he cupped his fists and asked about Zhong Wuchen's origins. Zhong Wuchen said calmly, Zhong Wuchen, a nameless person from a corner of the underground. Do you want to attack? If you don't, I'll be taking my magic treasure. Although Zhong Wuchen wasn't afraid of this handsome man, he knew that he wouldn't be able to defeat him. If the other party didn't make a move, he wouldn't take the initiative to attack. Zhiyuan Zhengzhou smiled faintly. I was just about to ask Dao friend Zhong about your sacred art. At this point, Zhiyuan Zhengzhou raised his hand and a huge brown brush appeared. It was not that Ning Cheng had never seen a cultivator using a pen-type magical weapon. In fact, he had seen a lot of them. However, this was the first time he saw someone using a curved pen like Zhiyuan Zhengzhou. Zhiyuan Zhengzhou's magic treasure was a curved pen. Once the curved pen was taken out, it was like a crescent moon, binding all the void that extended outwards from the inside out. The tip of the brush continued to condense powerful nomological Taoist rhymes to strengthen the binding of the void. If one's cultivation was slightly lower, under Zhiyuan Zhengzhou's powerful void shackles, one might not even have the ability to fight back. Zhong Wuchen wasn't bragging. The false world formed by his dustless bell directly smashed into the space extended by the curved pen. The two of them didn't fight directly. Instead, the dustless bell's false world space and the void shackles law extended by the curved pen clashed together. The Taoist rhymes exploded once again, and the broken law cut through the void with a sizzling sound. The false world law formed by the dustless bell suddenly split open, and the void shackles of Zhiyuan Zhengzhou's curved pen also broke at the same time. In this tentative exchange, Zhong Wuchen fell into a slight disadvantage. Zhiyuan Zhengzhou didn't continue to attack Zhong Wuchen. Maybe he could defeat Zhong Wuchen if he went all out. However, it was useless. His strength couldn't crush Zhong Wuchen. Dao friend Zhong, I apologize for what I said before. You indeed haven't condensed the third step creation realm Dao runes, but your strength isn't much worse than mine. It looks like you're right. What I condensed is indeed a false world. I come from the heavens beyond rest stop of heaven and earth's beyond rest stop. If Brother Zhong goes to heaven and earth's beyond, please come, Zhiyuan Zhengzhou said with a depressed expression. Before he started, he still had a glimmer of hope in his heart that Zhong Wuchen was just talking nonsense. Now that he had started fighting, he knew that Zhong Wuchen wasn't talking nonsense even if they separated after just one touch. After confirming that he had condensed a false world, how could Zhiyuan Zhengzhou still have anything to worry about and continue fighting with Zhong Wuchen? For a Dao cultivator, if this was the end of their life, it would be more uncomfortable than anything else. When the long-faced man heard Zhiyuan Zhengzhou's words, he knew that this old fox no longer had the intention to snatch the item and did not intend to continue fighting with Zhong Wuchen. If he wanted to fight with Zhong Wuchen, he would never reveal his origin. Since Zhiyuan Zhengzhou didn't make a move, the long-faced man knew that he couldn't beat the two of them together. Ning Cheng's previous divine ability was the time great divine ability, which ordinary sacred emperors couldn't cast. He had the same thought as Zhiyuan Zhengzhou. Anyone who could block his arrow wouldn't be an ordinary primordial chaos sacred emperor. Moreover, he also believed Zhong Wuchen's words that they had condensed a false world. You plotted against me the moment you came. Do you know how to plot against me? Zhiyuan Zhengzhou lost the idea of fighting, and the long-faced man's tone towards Ning Cheng was no longer as tough as before. He and Zhiyuan Zhengzhou only had a cooperative relationship. Once Zhiyuan Zhengzhou didn't make a move, and the two of them dealt with him, he felt that he had no chance of winning. Ning Cheng sneered, so you're Mao clan's old ancestor, Mao Tianqi. You also know that this thunder spirit is my everlasting Blue Thunder City's artifact spirit. You imprisoned my weapon's artifact spirit, so shouldn't I attack you? Get out of my way, I want to take away my artifact spirit. If Ning Cheng had let it go, Mao Tianqi might have let it go. But Ning Cheng actually wanted his thunder spirit, which was impossible. Lin. A deep roar erupted from the void. Mao Tianqi's Dao charm condensed and directly transformed into the word Lin. This was a word condensed from Dao charm. As soon as it condensed, it crazily gathered powerful Dao charm laws. The Dao charm law aura turned from weak to strong, and it directly transformed into a domineering law power that came crashing down. Under the pressure of the violent Dao charm law aura, Zhong Wuchen and Chu Yuan Zhengzhou could only retreat a little. They left the battlefield to Ning Cheng and the horse-faced man. The creation divine spear in Ning Cheng's hand also swept up the Dao charm of the endless spear patterns and blasted out. At the same time, it condensed into a handprint that landed on the Dao charm law aura of the word Lin. Law breaking. Against ordinary people, Ning Cheng's traceless spear pattern would suffice. Facing this creation realm powerhouse, even if it was a fake world, Ning Cheng had to go all out. In addition to bringing out the traceless spear pattern, he also brought out the law-breaking spirit technique. When the law-breaking spirit technique blasted onto the horse-faced man's Dao charm law, it immediately caused cracks to appear on the Dao charm law. Crack. The traceless spear pattern and the Dao charm of the word Lin finally collided, causing the Dao charm to explode and the laws to collapse. Even the lightning in the thunder crater in the distance dissipated under the collapsing laws. I was wondering who it was. It turns out to be Mao clan's old ancestor, Mao Tianqi of Heavens Beyond. You're lucky to have met me today. Ning Cheng held back his surging qi and blood and spoke with disdain. At this moment, not only did the Dao charm around him become disorderly, but even his bones started to shatter. It was only because of his powerful body tempering and origin source that he managed to recover quickly. This exchange made him realize that if Mao Tianqi really wanted the thunder spirit, he really couldn't snatch it. Ning Cheng had never learned the spirit technique used by Mao Tianqi, but he had seen it before. It was the Lin Seal spirit technique of the 12 words mantra spirit technique. The 12 words mantra spirit technique was a top-notch spirit technique among karma cultivation methods. The most powerful spirit technique of this spirit technique wasn't a single word spirit technique, but a combination of 12 words. A single Lin Seal spirit technique was already so terrifying. Ning Cheng was sure that if Mao Tianqi brought out the fusion of 12 words, he would only end up dead. The 12 words spirit technique were Lin, Bing, Do, Zhe, Jia, Array, Zai, Front, Truth, Control, and Seal. Compared to the 9 words mantra spirit technique that Ning Cheng knew before, Ning Cheng even suspected that the 9 words mantra spirit technique was an incomplete version of the 12 words mantra spirit technique. The Lin character spiritual technique put Ning Cheng at a complete disadvantage. Zhong Wuchen and Chu Yuan Zhengzhou, who were watching the fight, could clearly see it. However, the two of them did not think that Ning Cheng was far from being an opponent against Mao Tianqi. After Mao Tianqi brought out his second word spirit ability weapon, its power did not suppress Ning Cheng by a single step. What surprised them even more was that Ning Cheng's dissipating Dao charm quickly condensed again. Breaking laws of heaven and earth? Mao Tianqi suddenly stopped. He knew that there was no point in continuing. As long as Ning Cheng possessed the law-breaking spirit technique, his 12-word mantra wouldn't be able to exert its full effect unless he fused the 12-word mantra. If not for Chu Yuan Zhengzhou and Zhong Wuchen, he would have gone all out to kill Ning Cheng. With these two people here, if he wanted to kill Ning Cheng, then he would definitely suffer a great loss to his essence qi. Moreover, he vaguely felt that Ning Cheng was not completely clueless about the 12-word spiritual technique. His main purpose for coming here was not for a thunder soul, but because he had more important things to do. More importantly, he had yet to completely fuse the 12 words divine art. If he could fully fuse the 12 words spirit technique, he felt confident that he could suppress Ning Cheng with a single spirit technique. As for Ning Cheng's breaking laws of heaven and earth, it was just a joke. Since Mao Tianqi didn't attack, Ning Qing naturally wouldn't attack Mao Tianqi. His strongest weapon was the 5-colored star splitter arrow. Therefore, he wouldn't use the 5-colored star splitter arrow here. Just as Mao Tianqi thought, without Zhong Wuchen and Chu Yuan Zhengzhou here, he could use the 5-colored star splitter arrow to sneak up on Mao Tianqi. Even if he couldn't kill Mao Tianqi, he could at least seriously injure him. Now that there were two powerhouses spying on him from the side, how could he bring out such a trump card? Fuck off, I can forget about you sneak attacking me once. Mao Tianqi spoke with an ice-cold tone. But why would Ning Qing pay any attention to Mao Tianqi? His figure flashed, and he unexpectedly rushed towards the lightning pit that trapped the artifact spirit. The three people, including Zhong Wuchen, all froze. Was he looking for death? With such a terrifying lightning pit, even if they rushed in, they wouldn't be able to resist it. Chapter 1265. Even if he wanted the thunder spirit, Mao Tianqi would not rush over to snatch it from Ning Qing. In fact, cultivators feared thunder attacks the most. Cultivating the Tao was originally a heaven-defying path. Moreover, thunder attacks secretly suppressed the Tao charm that cultivators comprehended, making the attack even more powerful. This was also the reason why thunder's spiritual roots were the strongest among the variant spiritual roots, but also the most difficult to cultivate. Ning Qing happened to have a thunder spiritual root, and he was one of the few cultivators who did not fear thunder attacks. Of course, this did not mean that the attack did not exceed his own strength. Once the thunder attack far exceeded his own strength, even if he had a thunder spiritual root, he would still be blasted into nothingness. Although this thunder crater was powerful, it was not beyond Ning Qing's tolerance. As soon as Ning Qing rushed into the thunder crater, the terrifying lightning arcs within the thunder crater immediately bombarded the everlasting blue thunder fort. Although the everlasting blue thunder fort absorbed the thunder source, it could not block the terrifying thunder attack. Even more lightning arcs passed through the everlasting blue thunder fort and bombarded Ning Qing's body, causing Ning Qing to feel as if his entire body did not belong to him. The mysterious yellow formless, at this moment, crazily revolved, and the endless lightning arcs turned into thunder origin before Ning Qing devoured it. In just a dozen breaths, Ning Qing stabilized himself. At this time, Ning Qing did not absorb the thunder source to improve his strength, but raised his hand and grabbed the two black arrows that imprisoned the everlasting blue thunder fort's artifact spirit. As soon as Ning Qing grabbed the two black arrows, the artifact spirit gave out a happy cry. The next moment, the artifact spirit rushed towards the everlasting blue thunder fort. Ka, a light sound emerged, which was not easy to hear amidst the flashing lightning arcs. However, Ning Qing felt it. After this light sound, Ning Qing suddenly felt that his control over the everlasting blue thunder fort had weakened. Ning Qing's heart sank. After the everlasting blue thunder fort's artifact spirit integrated with the everlasting blue thunder fort, the everlasting blue thunder fort was no longer his weapon. At least, before he refined it, it would not be his weapon. Just when Ning Qing thought that the everlasting blue thunder fort would escape, he received a trace of thought. The everlasting blue thunder fort's artifact spirit instantly integrated with the everlasting blue thunder fort, and at the same time gave Ning Qing a trace of gratitude. Ning Qing immediately understood the meaning behind the artifact spirit's words. As long as he injected his spiritual sense into this trace of intent, the everlasting blue thunder city would forever become his magical weapon, and no one would be able to take it away. Without his permission, even the everlasting blue thunder city would not be able to escape. Ning Qing did not try to be pretentious at this time. He integrated his spiritual sense into the everlasting blue thunder city's artifact spirit and once again turned the everlasting blue thunder city into his own defensive weapon. In the heaven and earth deity mound, perhaps only his cultivation was the lowest. Without the protection of the everlasting blue thunder city, his strength would continue to drop by a level. After Ning Cheng's spiritual sense merged with the everlasting blue thunder city's artifact spirit, Ning Cheng's mind shook slightly. At this moment, he could feel the difference. Compared to before, the everlasting blue thunder city made him feel even more compatible with it. Not only did its defensive strength increase by several times, but even the means of attack had also increased by several times. The lightning arcs in the thunder pit could no longer pass through the everlasting blue thunder fort and hit his body. These lightning arcs, which had just fallen onto the everlasting blue thunder fort, were immediately absorbed by the everlasting blue thunder fort. Under Ning Cheng's spiritual sense, the everlasting blue thunder city quickly improved and strengthened. At this time, the thunder source within the thunder pit grew fewer and fewer. With the everlasting blue thunder city as a giant millstone in this place, no matter how many lightning arcs there were, this millstone would grind away all of them. Ning Cheng breathed in a sigh of relief and changed his tattered clothes. However, he did not try to compete with the everlasting blue thunder city for the thunder source within the thunder pit. After half a day, the thunder source within the thunder pit had almost completely disappeared. Only then did Ning Cheng step out of the thunder pit. At this time, not only the thunder pit, but even the entire thunder arc swamp had lost its lightning. Dao friend Ning, you managed to subdue the blue thunder city's artifact spirit so quickly. I really want to see if you can use the everlasting blue thunder city to defend against that Dao charm spirit technique. Zhong Wuchen came over and spoke in an exaggerated manner. While speaking, he also swept his gaze towards Mao Tianqi. Both Chu Yuan Zhengzhou and Mao Tianqi looked at Ning Cheng in shock. Ning Cheng entered the thunder pit without even the slightest injury. Moreover, he even managed to subdue the everlasting blue thunder city's artifact spirit technique. His expression turned a little gloomy. Even if the artifact spirit was willing, since Ning Cheng could enter the thunder pit and take away the artifact spirit of the everlasting blue thunder city, it showed that Ning Cheng had a thunder spiritual root. He did not continue to attack Ning Cheng. The everlasting blue thunder city with an artifact spirit and the everlasting blue thunder city without an artifact spirit were not on the same level. Before fusing with the 12 secret words spirit technique, he estimated that even if his strength surpassed Ning Cheng, he would not be able to crush Ning Cheng. Have you seen the 12 secret words spirit technique? Mao Tianqi stood in front of Ning Cheng and asked in a cold tone. When Ning Cheng subdued the blue thunder city's artifact spirit, he had already figured it out. Ning Cheng had definitely seen the 12 secret words spirit technique. Otherwise, even if he possessed the heaven and earth breaking law spirit technique, he would not be able to suppress his confrontation the first time. It's none of your business. Ning Cheng's tone turned even colder. So what if he was the Mao family's old ancestor? Ning Cheng laughed. Mao Tianqi, you're really shameless. If the 12 secret words spirit technique belongs to your Mao family, then who created the land of karma and resentment in the heavens beyond of heaven and earth? In order to snatch the 12 secret words spirit technique, your Mao family killed the original owners of the 12 secret words spirit technique and eventually formed the land of karma and resentment in the heavens beyond of heaven and earth. Now, you still have the face to say that the 12 secret words spirit technique belongs to your Mao family. No wonder the Mao family's people are so thick-skinned when I went to the heavens beyond of heaven and earth. It turns out that there's a reason behind it. Sure enough, you snatched the 12 secret words spirit technique from my Mao family. Mao Tianqi glared at Ning Cheng with his killing intent. Zhong Wuchen chuckled and said, Daoist Ning, do you want me to help you teach this ungrateful thing a lesson? Ning Cheng waved his hand. No need. Mao Tianqi can't do anything to me. If you want to fight, let's fight. Why would I be afraid of him? With a thought, the everlasting blue thunder city had already protected Ning Cheng. At that moment, the overflowing thunder light of the everlasting blue thunder city could no longer be seen. However, everyone could feel the terrifying Dao rune oppression. Zhong Wuchen sighed in his heart. He was the one who felt it the most. The everlasting blue thunder city was probably several times stronger than before. Ning Cheng was indeed a person with great luck. Zhong Wuchen could sense that Chu Yuan Zhengzhou did not have any intention of making a move, but he was eager to try. The primordial chaos sacred emperor in front of him did not seem to be someone to be trifled with. Mao Tianqi clenched his fists and hesitated whether he should go all out. In order to snatch the 12 secret words spirit technique, you killed the entire Mao family. You. When Mao Tianqi said this, he wished he could swallow Ning Cheng in one bite. However, he could not continue speaking. The Mao family had taken the 12 secret words spirit technique after destroying a family. Ning Cheng said disdainfully, in order to snatch my friend's cultivation technique, the Mao family detained my friend and viciously refined his soul. It would not be too much even if I killed the Mao family several times over. Now, I regret not killing the entire Mao family. Mao Tianqi, don't provoke me. Otherwise, I will really go to heavens beyond and kill the entire Mao family. The Mao family has committed countless sins in heavens beyond. Killing the entire Mao family is what you deserve. Mao Tianqi felt relieved when he heard Ning Cheng's words. Since Ning Cheng had said this, it was obvious that he had not killed the entire Mao family. In order to seek the highest realm, he had stopped asking about the Mao family. However, if the entire Mao family was killed, no matter how strong his Tao heart was, he would not be able to leave no trace. At this point, Mao Tianqi had already made up his mind not to provoke Ning Cheng. Back then, the Lu family was a good example. Unless there was something wrong with his brain, he would provoke a sacred emperor with a powerful potential like Ning Cheng for a thunder spirit. Sensing that Mao Tianqi no longer had the intention to continue fighting with Ning Cheng, Chu Yuan Zhengzhou was about to speak when they saw a terrifying explosion of Dao runes in the distance. Because of this explosion, the powerful Dao runes law whirlpool was blasted over. Even the four of them subconsciously took a step back. Chu Yuan Zhengzhou and Mao Tianqi looked at each other with a hint of excitement in their eyes. Mao Tianqi didn't waste any time as he turned into a shadow and rushed forward. Chu Yuan Zhengzhou only had time to call out before he rushed over with Mao Tianqi. Daoist Ning, it looks like a good thing. Should we go over and take a look? Zhong Wuchen asked for Ning Cheng's opinion. In fact, Ning Cheng had already seen his desire to go over. Of course, Ning Cheng said without hesitation. Even if Chu Yuan Zhengzhou and Mao Tianqi were at the pseudo-realm, their realms were higher than theirs. Since even these two people were eager to go over, it would be strange if it wasn't good. Of course, more importantly, the place where the Dao runes exploded was in the direction of the dirty water. The two followed behind Chu Yuan Zhengzhou and Mao Tianqi and felt a lot more relaxed. Chu Yuan Zhengzhou and Mao Tianqi had already blasted away some of the hidden lore-related spirit techniques. A blown-up planet. What a strong attack. After walking for an incense stick worth of time, Zhong Wuchen exclaimed. Ning Cheng also saw a huge broken planet thousands of miles away from the two of them. Although it was broken, it didn't mean that the planet was missing a lot. Instead, it meant that the planet had cracked like a three-dimensional spider web when it landed on the ground. It wasn't unusual for a planet to explode. Ning Cheng had walked through the void and had seen many planets explode. However, the planet Zhong Wuchen mentioned was different. This planet wasn't in the void but lying on the god's tomb mound. What surprised the two was that there was a fist mark thousands of miles wide on the surface of the planet. It was obvious that someone had used this planet to fight against an enemy and punched the surface of the planet. Punched the surface of the planet and attacked the opponent. This beast is a bit powerful. Ning Cheng said with a snort. The person who punched the planet and smashed the planet into the god's tomb mound was indeed powerful. However, Ning Cheng felt that this person wasn't much different from a beast. This planet was filled with endless resentment and death aura, indicating that there were at least billions of people on this planet. That punch had directly wiped out billions of lives. Chapter 1266. Boom. Ning Cheng hadn't finished his sentence when another horrifying Dao charm exploded in the distance. Two illusory Dao charm attacks slammed into each other, and another planet shattered into pieces. A shadow flashed through Ning Cheng's spiritual consciousness. Zhong Wuchen sighed and said, "These planets all have extremely high laws. Only a true third-step powerhouse can grab a planet with extremely high laws and smash it with a single punch. What we see now is just the shadow of the Dao charm of a lore-related spirit technique, which reflects the battle of that year. If it were a true battle, just the aftermath of the Dao charm would have made it hard for us to survive. Ning Cheng remained silent. What was the purpose of cultivation? If it was immortality, then these people who cultivated to the third step would have long since obtained immortality. Why would they use such inhumane punches to shatter planets? The everlasting Blue Thunder City's artifact spirit in Ning Cheng's Sea of Consciousness suddenly transmitted a thought. The Dao Charm handprint that shattered the planet just now belonged to the person who possessed the five-colored star splitter arrow. The five-colored star splitter arrow had also separated it from the artifact spirit. If Ning Cheng hadn't brought the everlasting Blue Thunder City with him, it probably wouldn't have had the chance to integrate with the everlasting Blue Thunder City. Five-colored star splitter arrow? Ning Cheng suddenly recalled the scene he had experienced in the thunder territory of the Law's Way. The five-colored star splitter arrow had indeed scattered the everlasting Blue Thunder City's artifact spirit. After hesitating for a while, Ning Cheng sent a message to the everlasting Blue Thunder City's artifact spirit in his Sea of Consciousness. He had obtained the five-colored star splitter arrow. Sure enough, after knowing that the five-colored star splitter arrow that injured it was in Ning Cheng's hands, the everlasting Blue Thunder City's artifact spirit seemed to have fallen into depression and didn't speak for a long time. Ning Cheng spoke up with an apologetic tone, "That five-colored star splitter arrow is of great use to me. Just like you, I can't give it up." After saying that, Ning Cheng even mobilized the aura of the five-colored star splitter arrow and let the everlasting Blue Thunder City's artifact spirit feel it. The everlasting Blue Thunder City's artifact spirit took a while to transmit a thought to Ning Cheng. "This is an arrow, what about the bow?" Ning Cheng asked in doubt. The five-colored star splitter arrow is said to have no bow and no arrow, no stars, and no splitter. Where is the bow and arrow? The everlasting Blue Thunder Fort's artifact spirit seemed to have remembered that it and the five-colored star splitter arrow shared the same master. Therefore, this time, it did not hesitate to answer, "No bow, no arrow, no star splitter." That is to say, after refining it, the bow and arrow would disappear, but it would still be everywhere. At any time, the bow and arrow would appear. The bow and arrow alone could also attack the opponent, but they could not display the true power of the five-colored star splitter arrow. If it were a single bow or a single arrow, it would not be able to separate the everlasting Blue Thunder City's artifact spirit. After Ning Cheng listened to the words of the everlasting Blue Thunder City's artifact spirit, he realized that his thoughts were just too absurd. He had always thought that the five-colored star splitter arrow didn't have a bow. But now it seems that the five-colored star splitter arrow he relied on wasn't without a bow. It was because the lack of a bow or arrows didn't affect the five-colored star splitter arrow's performance. King long ago, Ning even if the other than the bow and the other people of the Cheng, king with master of the other than, of the bow and the bow and one. Ning Cheng even thought, if one day he met a person with a bow, in the end, who would be stronger? The starry sky he obtained lacked an artifact spirit, while the everlasting Blue Thunder City lacked an artifact spirit. The five-colored star splitter arrow he obtained was only an arrow, not a bow. The mysterious yellow bead that he obtained was his own perfected world. It seemed that from the beginning until now, he had never obtained a complete top-notch magic treasure. Who are these two? A vague voice arrived, causing Ning Cheng to stop thinking about the five-colored star splitter arrow. There were at least 5 people standing in front of him. Other than Mao Tianqi and Chu Yuan Zhengzhou whom he knew, there were 2 other men and 1 woman whom he did not know at all. The cultivation of these 2 men and 1 woman was also very strong. None of them were weaker than Mao Tianqi. What made Ning Cheng even more shocked was that behind these 2 men and 1 woman was a huge boulder. Although it was said to be a boulder, it would be better to say that it was a huge stone mountain. This was because the height and width of this boulder were at least several thousand meters. The reason why Ning Cheng was shocked was because there was a round hole in the middle of the boulder. This round hole looked as if it had been created by a finger, and cracks spread out from this round hole as the center. It was not a big deal to poke a hole in a boulder with his finger. Even when Ning Cheng had just reached the Qi-gathering realm, he could have done it. However, this round hole in the boulder gave Ning Cheng a feeling of vastness and boundlessness. What he saw was not a round hole, but a boundless universe. This universe contained boundless majestic power and a grand aura. Behind the boulder was a long canyon filled with Tao charm, which spiritual consciousness couldn't access. I don't know. Mao Tianqi spoke with a cold tone. Chu Yuan Zhengzhou gave a chuckle. I've seen them before. These two are fellow Taoist Zhong Wuchen and fellow Taoist Ning. This is not a place for you. Get out of the way. The lanky man spoke in a hoarse voice, his voice still vague. Oh, is this your home? Zhong Wuchen spoke with disdain. Ha! The lanky man laughed. A Tao perfection holy emperor, at most a half-step world creation holy emperor, dared to say such words to him. As long as one wasn't at the third step, they were just ants in his eyes. Although he was laughing, the lanky man's eyes were not smiling at all. He said in a cold tone, my name is Min Husheng, and I'm from the Min family of heavens beyond. The others here are Ku Yusheng of the Infinite Realm Auction, Ji Man of Heavens Beyond, Mao Tianqi of the Mao family, and Chu Yuan Zhengzhou of the Heavens Beyond. Rest in. Remember not to look for the wrong place to take revenge after you die. After Min Husheng finished speaking, his figure flashed, and he lightly slapped Zhong Wuchen with his palm. In his opinion, even if Zhong Wuchen was at the half-step world creation realm, as long as he wasn't at the third step, he would be able to kill him with one slap. Zhong Wuchen also sneered. There are so many self-righteous people these days. I met someone with the surname Mao, and now I meet someone with the surname Min. Since there are so many people who need to be taught a lesson, let me teach you a lesson. As he spoke, Zhong Wuchen's dustless bell swept up thousands of Tao charms and blasted towards Min Husheng. Ning Cheng had always addressed him as Old Man Zhong, but now he did not have even half a shred of unfamiliarity with it, and was able to address him as such. The reason he didn't mock Chu Yuan Zhengzhou was that Chu Yuan Zhengzhou was indeed stronger than him, and Chu Yuan Zhengzhou had always been polite to him. Boom! The Tao rhymes collided with each other and exploded. Zhong Wuchen's dustless bell had been prepared. Min Husheng had underestimated Zhong Wuchen and wanted to kill Zhong Wuchen with one slap. As a result, under the impact of the Tao charms, Min Husheng, who didn't take Zhong Wuchen seriously, was sent flying by the dustless bell and slammed into the huge stone. Min Husheng, who landed on the ground, barely managed to control his surging spiritual sea and meridians. He looked at Zhong Wuchen in shock. You're also at the third step world creation realm? Why haven't I heard of you? Zhong Wuchen sighed. There are many people you haven't heard of. What's the point of talking about the third step all the time? In just one confrontation, the white-haired and wrinkled Ku Yusheng could see that Zhong Wuchen wasn't any weaker than them. He quickly stood up and said, since everyone is at the third step, let's go in together. The more people there are, the more power we have. Min Husheng then looked at Chu Yuan Zhengzhou and Mao Tianqi. What puzzled him was that neither of them spoke. At this point, even if Min Husheng was slow, he could tell that Ning Cheng and Zhong Wuchen had extraordinary origins. Maybe they had already fought against Chu Yuan Zhengzhou and Mao Tianqi. Otherwise, with Mao Tianqi's character, he would have told the two of them to get lost instead of staying silent. Since no one stepped forward, Min Husheng naturally didn't want to fight against someone who was almost the same as him. The woman who hadn't spoken suddenly said, you can go in, but you're not qualified to leave a mark on this desolate ancient void-breaking tablet. Please stay outside. I agree with Tao-friendly man's words. Min Husheng was the first to speak up. I also agree. Ku Yusheng also nodded. Li Man's words made sense. If you didn't have enough strength, even you wouldn't be able to go in. Chu Yuan Zhengzhou chuckled, if everyone agrees, I don't mind. Mao Tianqi snorted but didn't speak. He had suffered a loss in front of Ning Cheng. He naturally didn't want Ning Cheng to enter such a place of opportunity. However, he couldn't find an excuse to stop him. Desolate ancient void-breaking tablet? Ning Cheng looked at the boulder with a round hole in front of him in confusion. With his primordial chaos strength, couldn't he leave a finger mark on this tablet? Seeing Ning Cheng's confusion, Zhong Wuchen explained, I've heard of this desolate ancient void-breaking tablet. The hole in this boulder was created by a finger. The person who created this hole was Tao Lord Pasu, and the spiritual power he used was the desolate ancient void-breaking finger. It's not without reason that the desolate ancient void-breaking finger is known as the #1 finger in the universe. Nothing can resist the desolate ancient void-breaking finger. The desolate ancient void-breaking finger has the power to break through the void and destroy everything. After hearing Zhong Wuchen's words, Ning Qing knew that this boulder was unimaginably hard even without trying it. Ning Qing really wanted to ask what was in this long canyon behind the desolate ancient void-breaking tablet that these third-step world creation realm experts were so concerned about. However, he held back and didn't ask. Once he asked, it would mean that he didn't know anything about this place. If he didn't even know what it was, he would obviously be taking advantage of others if he followed them in. If he didn't ask, the other party would only think that he and Zhong Wuchen had the same purpose as them. Zhong Wuchen was a sly old fox and obviously wouldn't ask about such things. "I'll go first." As Min Husheng spoke, he took a step forward and punched out. He looked a little embarrassed when he fought against Zhong Wuchen just now because he had underestimated him. This time, he wanted to let Zhong Wuchen see clearly that he, Min Husheng, was still a little stronger than Zhong Wuchen in terms of strength. The power of Min Husheng's punch was several times stronger than the one he had used on Zhong Wuchen. The Tao runes directly broke the space between the fist and the stone tablet. Bang! A dull sound rang out, but the boulder didn't even budge. The Tao runes of Min Husheng's punch blasted on the boulder, leaving behind a shallow fist shadow. If one didn't pay attention, they might not even be able to see it. He was sure that as time went by, the fist shadows would disappear. Min Husheng's face turned red. He knew how hard the ancient void-breaching tablet was. However, he was a third-step Tao validation expert after all. If he punched down, even if he couldn't punch too deep, he should be able to leave a shallow mark, right? In reality, he only left behind an almost undetectable shadow of his fist. Chapter 1267. No one laughed at Min Husheng. Instead, Chu Yuan Zhengzhou let out a cry of surprise. In fact, the few creation realm experts in heavens beyond did not have much of a difference in strength. Min Husheng's punch, which had condensed Tao runes, could only leave a vague fist shadow on the ancient void-breaching tablet. This meant that they could only do this much. The ancient void-breaching tablet really lives up to its reputation. Let me try. Chu Yuan Zhengzhou took a step forward and condensed a powerful Tao rune, which he aimed at the ancient void-breaching tablet. Unlike Min Husheng's punch, Chu Yuan Zhengzhou also blasted out a finger. When his finger touched the ancient void-breaching tablet, the Tao runes exploded, emitting a dull tearing sound. After the dull Tao runes exploded, a finger mark appeared on the ancient void-breaching tablet. The finger mark was slightly deeper than Min Husheng's fist shadow, but it was limited. Ning Qing secretly praised Chu Yuan Zhengzhou's mentality. He had been a little disappointed that he was not really at the third step, but he had adjusted in the blink of an eye. "It's your turn. As long as you can leave such a mark, you can go in with us," Li Man said coldly as she looked at Ning Qing. Li Man looked at Ning Qing and spoke in a cold tone. She had not expected the desolate ancient void-shattering monument to be this hard. Ning Qing smiled faintly. "My cultivation level is the lowest here, so I'm naturally the last to try." Daoist Li was the one who suggested to try on the ancient void-breaching tablet. "In that case, I can't be ahead of you." Li Man snorted coldly. Without any nonsense, she flew over and struck out with her palm. This palm was too fast, and the violent Tao rune mark produced bursts of law explosions. When Li Man landed on the ground, a palm mark that was clearer than Chu Yuan Zhengzhou's finger mark appeared on the void-breaching tablet. Ning Qing was shocked. He had not expected this woman to be stronger than Chu Yuan Zhengzhou and Min Husheng. At this time, Ku Yusheng and Mao Tianqi did not say anything. Each of them left a faint mark on the ancient void-breaching tablet. All 5 of them had tried. At this moment, all 5 of them looked at Zhong Wuchen and Ning Qing. If Zhong Wuchen and Ning Cheng could not leave a mark on the ancient desolate void-breaking steel, then even if the other party did not speak, the two of them would not have the face to follow them inside. Zhong Wuchen chuckled. He did not say a single word as he struck the ancient void-breaching tablet with his palm. Another faint mark appeared on the ancient void-breaching monument. Although it was not stronger than Min Husheng's mark, it was not much weaker either. Seeing that everyone was looking at him, Ning Cheng did not make a move immediately. Instead, he looked at Chu Yuan Zhengzhou and asked, Daoist Zhengzhou, since Tao Lord Pasu left behind the primeval void-shattering finger here, why isn't anyone comprehending the Tao runes of the primeval void-shattering finger divine ability? Chu Yuan Zhengzhou silently shook his head. Ning Cheng suddenly felt that something was wrong. It seems that he had asked the wrong question. Sure enough, Min Husheng sneered, I knew that you came to take advantage of us because you saw us here. You don't know why we're here, do you? Ning Cheng simply spoke up, we really do not know what your purpose is, but we also have a purpose. Since that's the case, you can go ahead. The two of us will leave separately. This canyon did not belong to anyone, and Ning Cheng's words were very clear. Everyone should walk their own paths. Li Man suddenly waved her hand and said, this canyon is only so big. Since we're already here, we have to go together. You can try your fist. If you can leave a mark, we can go in together. If you can't, you can leave by yourself. She was worried that Ning Cheng would discover the treasure first, which was why she suggested going together. I said that I don't know your purpose. Since you want us to go together, then tell us your purpose. Otherwise, there's no need for us to go together. Ning Cheng said without hesitation. That's not up to you. We found this place first, so we won't allow you to go in now. What do you think? Min Husheng's Dao runes surged, as if he was ready to make a move at any moment. Min Husheng's last sentence was directed at Mao Tianqi, Chu Yuan Zhengzhou, and the others. However, neither Mao Tianqi nor Chu Yuan Zhengzhou responded. Only Li Man immediately brought out her weapon and spoke in a cold voice, I want to see who dares to go in. Ning Cheng raised his hand, and the good fortune divine spear appeared in his hand, Old Zhong, get ready to fight. There were too many benefits to fighting against a creation realm powerhouse, regardless of whether the other party's creation realm was real or fake. For Ning Cheng, he couldn't wait to fight against a few more people. The reason why his good fortune divine spear could advance was because of his fight against Mao Tianqi. Moreover, the creation realm's realm boundary allowed him to gain a deeper understanding of space. A fake world was even better. If it was a real world, he wouldn't even be able to touch the edge of it. This was the second time that Mao Tianqi and Chu Yuan Zhengzhou remained silent on the issue of dealing with Ning Cheng and Zhong Wuchen. Seeing that a fight was about to break out, Ku Yusheng chuckled and said, I heard that this is the place where Tao Lord Pasu fell. Since it's everyone's first time here, it naturally has no owner. If Tao friend Ning can leave a mark on the ancient desolation void-breaking tablet, then everyone will naturally be qualified to go in. If you can't leave a mark, then even if we invite Tao friend Ning to go in, I don't think Tao friend Ning would go in. Li Man frowned slightly but didn't speak. She could also see that Mao Tianqi and Chu Yuan Zhengzhou didn't want to clash with these two. It was completely useless to goad them into action. Ning Cheng also knew that they wouldn't be able to fight, which made him a little disappointed. Ning Cheng didn't bother to continue talking nonsense. He put away the good fortune divine spear and lightly tapped the ancient desolation void-breaking tablet with a finger. In terms of spirit essence Dao runes, Ning Cheng knew that he wasn't as deep as these powerhouses in front of him. However, he had his own advantage, which was that he was the last to test his fist technique. While others were testing their fist techniques, he had been observing from the side. Every time he tested his fist technique, he could feel the distribution of Dao runes from the ancient desolation void-breaking tablet. More importantly, he possessed the law-breaking spiritual ability. When Ning Cheng's finger touched the ancient desolation void-breaking tablet, the laws in front of his fingertip shattered. With a poof, Ning Cheng's finger directly entered the ancient desolation void-breaking tablet. Just like Tao Lord Pasu's finger, a few spider-web-like cracks spread out from the center of his finger. Everyone around was shocked by Ning Cheng's terrifying finger technique. What kind of cultivation was this? Li Man, who had suggested it, opened her mouth wide in disbelief. Ku Yusheng sucked in a breath of cold air. He subconsciously glanced at Chu Yuan Zhengzhou and Mao Tianqi. No wonder these two were unwilling to fight this primordial chaos sacred emperor. This person was too terrifying. This made him think of the other primordial chaos expert in heavens beyond. They were both young, had advanced to primordial chaos, and were equally terrifying. Not only were the few people around shocked, but Ning Cheng was equally shocked. Initially, he had only wanted to use the law-breaking spiritual ability to leave behind a trace. He hadn't expected that after he used the law-breaking spiritual ability to shatter the heaven-earth laws in front of his fingertip, the traces of the Tao runes on the ancient desolation void-breaking tablet would be clearly imprinted in his consciousness. At that moment, he could clearly grasp the weakness of the laws on the ancient desolation void-breaking tablet. He even had a feeling that he could shatter the ancient desolation void-breaking tablet with a single punch if he wanted to. The law-breaking spiritual ability broke the heaven-earth laws outside the stone tablet, but it didn't break the laws on the stone tablet. Instead, it allowed him to grasp all the heaven-earth laws within the range of his fingertip. At that moment, Ning Cheng knew that his law-breaking spiritual ability had improved. Previously, when he used the law-breaking spiritual ability, it didn't matter what kind of law it was. He just needed to use his spiritual ability to disrupt and shatter it. However, this time, he grasped every single detail of the heaven-earth laws. One was destruction, while the other was control. He clearly knew how to use this finger to create the greatest effect. The law-breaking spiritual ability had always been an auxiliary spiritual ability to Ning Cheng. However, the epiphany he had just gained allowed Ning Cheng to grasp that the law-breaking spiritual ability was also a powerful offensive technique. A finger that could shatter the heaven-earth laws and tear apart all Tao runes could be called the law-breaking finger. He's having an epiphany. Ku Yusheng exclaimed. Ku Yusheng wasn't the only one who could see it. Everyone could see that Ning Cheng was having an epiphany. An epiphany of this level, no matter what it was extremely amazing. Even Zhong Wuchen had an envious look on his face. Not only was Daoist Ning powerful and heaven-defying, but his comprehension of the heaven-earth Tao was also far better than his. Min Husheng suddenly snorted, and the power of his Tao runes immediately destroyed the balance of the surrounding laws. Everyone knew that Min Husheng wanted to break Ning Cheng's epiphany. At this time, no one came out to stop him. Even Zhong Wuchen didn't say anything. Sure enough, Ning Cheng opened his eyes and retracted his finger when Min Husheng snorted. He looked at Min Husheng and said coldly, Min Husheng, I taught an ant named Min Quan a lesson back in heavens beyond. Is he your descendant? Min Husheng's killing intent was obvious, but he didn't speak. Ning Cheng chuckled. It looks like he's really someone from your Min clan. The next time I see this ant, I'll kill him directly. I won't let him live. Min Husheng was furious. He glanced at the finger marks left behind by Ning Cheng in fear but still didn't speak. He already understood why Mao Tianqi hadn't spoken up until now. He guessed that he had suffered a big loss at this person's hands. Ning Cheng was a little disappointed. This guy could really endure. He had just comprehended the order-breaking finger and wanted to give it a try. He didn't expect Min Husheng to be so patient. Ku Yusheng clapped his hands. Daoist Ning is indeed powerful. In that case, let's go in and look for cultivation techniques together. Are you guys going in to look for a cultivation technique? Ning Cheng didn't expect that to be the reason. To be honest, he wasn't interested in cultivation techniques at all. Ku Yusheng nodded. Tao Lord pursues primordial void-shattering art. Only by finding the primordial void-shattering art can one cultivate and comprehend the primordial void-shattering finger. I heard that the primordial void-shattering art is famous among the top 10 cultivation techniques. It focuses on condensing strength. A strength cultivation technique ranked 5th among the top 10 cultivation techniques. Ning Qing finally understood why even creation realm cultivators were so interested in this cultivation technique. Chapter 1268. Ning Qing didn't care about the other cultivation techniques, but the strength cultivation technique piqued his interest. The strength cultivation technique was ranked 5th, but the ranking was relative. It was just like how the number 1 on the armament manual was killed by the number 2, and the number 2 was killed by the number 3. When one's strength reached its peak, it wasn't impossible to kill someone who cultivated the creation cultivation technique. Ning Qing knew that everyone here was wary of each other. Even he and Zhong Wuchen were just using each other. Even if he had the weakest cultivation level, he didn't have to worry about a few people ganging up on him. As long as he had the opportunity, it wasn't impossible for him to obtain the strength cultivation technique. Moreover, there might be other good things here since Dao Lord Pusu had fallen. However, he was hesitant about whether he should go in and search for the creation void-breaking technique or the stainless water first. Seeing the desire in Ning Cheng and Zhong Wuchen's eyes, Ku Yusheng said again, Daoist Zhong, Daoist Ning. Although we all have the same goal, we spent a lot of energy to find this place and open the ancient desolation void-breaking tablet. Daoist Yuan Zhou and Daoist Tian Qi were originally a team with us, and they also contributed a lot in our previous operation. So, Ning Qing didn't really care about it. When he saw the violent explosion of Dao runes, he knew that Ku Yusheng wasn't lying. They must have contributed a lot. Ku Yusheng wanted them to join because he thought that there was strength in numbers, not because he was noble. Boom! Another violent explosion sounded, and a violent Dao rune whirlpool swept over and directly blasted against their protective domains. Their expressions didn't change. It would be strange if there wasn't an explosion caused by the collision of laws in a place like Jiaoliang Mountain. However, Ning Cheng's expression changed slightly. The explosion wasn't far from here, but it was within the range of the stainless water that Peng Yu had given him. Old Zhong, you go in and look for opportunities. I'll go see if there's anything good in the explosion. After Ning Qing said that, he didn't have time to talk nonsense with the others. His figure flashed and disappeared without a trace. Zhong Wuchen knew what Ning Qing was going to do, but he didn't care. Instead, he said to the puzzled Ku Yusheng and the others, Daoist Ku is right. How about this, if we find any treasures, I'll be the last one to choose in the first round. Zhong Wuchen knew very well that even if he wasn't the last choice, he was the weakest here. Alright, that's settled then. Ku Yusheng immediately made the decision. The few of them no longer cared about Ning Cheng, and joined hands to conceal the desolate ancient void-shattering monument once again before entering the canyon. Violent Dao Charm Law explosions continued to erupt. Ning Cheng was in a hurry to obtain the stainless water. Therefore, the Dao Charm vortexes that exploded hit him several times along the way. Bang! A Law Dao Charm containing a powerful force slammed into Ning Cheng's chest, and Ning Cheng almost spat out a mouthful of blood. However, he had also arrived at the edge of the explosion. This was a black river, not because the river was black. It was because the river was filled with black vines. These vines looked like black worms that were entangled together. They even had some mucus on them, which made one's scalp tingle. Ning Qing knew about this vine. It was called the spirit-devouring vine. The spirit-devouring rattan could devour anything that contained essence qi, be it divine grasses or cultivators. As long as it contained heaven and earth essence qi, it would be the one this rattan liked to devour. In addition to devouring, this rattan could also form a powerful suction vortex when it was mixed together. This vortex could suck in everything that passed over it and turn it into its own nutrients. The reason why the spirit-devouring rattan was so disgusting, apart from devouring anything that contained life essence qi, was that it wasn't just vegetation. Even if this rattan was cut off, it could still twist around and insert itself into the soil in a different place. Then, it would quickly grow again. The river was dry, without a single drop of water. The bottom of the river was filled with these disgusting spirit-devouring rattans. In the middle of the river, the broken laws constantly collided with each other, giving off bursts of explosions. Ning Qing quickly understood what was going on. In the middle of the river, there was a bearded man. This man was standing on a round drum-shaped flight-type magical weapon. Below this drum-type weapon was a blade light filled with Dao charm. The endless spirit-devouring Rottans wanted to bypass the drum-type weapon and twist the bearded man down. However, not a single spirit-devouring Rottan could succeed. All the spirit-devouring Rottans, as long as they came within 3 feet of the drum-type weapon, would be twisted into dregs by the Dao charm blade light. However, the vitality of the spirit-devouring Rottans was too strong. After being twisted into dregs, they would immediately regenerate, and then rush up to be crushed again. Although the spirit-devouring Rottans were constantly attacking the drum-type weapon light, the bearded man didn't care about it at all. In fact, these spirit-devouring Rottans did not pose even half a threat to him. The long whip in his hand twisted in the void, causing a crack to appear in the void above the Black River. A drop of water without any color fell down. Not waiting for this drop of water to fall to the ground, the bearded man took out a jade bottle and collected the drop of water. Taintless water. Ning Qing felt extremely anxious in his heart. He was not only anxious about the taintless water being taken away by the bearded man, but even more anxious about this fellow using a jade bottle to collect the taintless water. Even if he bought the taintless water from the bearded man, it would still turn into waste. Ning Qing no longer hesitated. Unfolding the twin wings of the heavenly clouds, he immediately rushed towards the middle of the Black River. According to the information provided by Peng Yu, the taintless water was just above the river. However, the specific location was very difficult to find. Ning Qing did not know what method the bearded man used to find the taintless water, but now he could only explore it by himself. As soon as Ning Qing entered the Black River, the inexhaustible spirit-devouring Rottans under his feet crazily spread out, wanting to pull him in. At the same time, a terrifying suction force emerged from the whirlpool, almost pulling Ning Qing into the Black River. It was not until this moment that Ning Qing realized how strong this bearded man was. Spirit-devouring Rottans also had their own grades, and the spirit-devouring Rottans in this Black River were almost all of the highest grades. At this time, how could Ning Qing have any hesitation? A blue-green flame suddenly appeared under his feet and turned into a cloud of fire. As soon as the inexhaustible spirit-devouring Rottans came into contact with the cloud of fire, they immediately turned into flying ash. After the first group of spirit-devouring Rottans turned into flying ash, more and more spirit-devouring Rottans swept towards him. However, the celestial river flame was too powerful. Even if these spirit-devouring Rottans were terrifying, they would not be able to break through the celestial river flame and reach Ning Qing's body. Although the bearded man's drum-type weapon was powerful, it was not as straightforward as the celestial river flame, which directly turned the spirit-devouring Rottans into flying ash. In the place where the celestial river flame extended, there was no space for the spirit-devouring Rottans to survive. The spirit-devouring Rottans had low-level intelligence, but even if it had low intelligence, it still had intelligence. In just a dozen breaths, the spirit-devouring Rottans did not dare to rush towards Ning Qing again. This kind of suicidal behavior, they could also feel it. Ha! The bearded man glanced at Ning Qing in surprise, before his eyes fell on Ning Qing's celestial river flame. He was not an ignorant person. With just a glance at Ning Qing's flame, he immediately realized that it was the highest grade celestial river flame. Someone could evolve the celestial river flame to this level. How come he had never seen this person before? The bearded man once again looked at Ning Qing's face and found that he really had never seen Ning Qing before. Ning Qing was not in the mood to care about this bearded man. His spiritual consciousness instantly penetrated out and captured all the details of this space, including any spatial fluctuations. An incense stick worth of time passed by, followed by an hour. Ning Qing did not gain anything, while the bearded man once again obtained a drop of stainless water. Moreover, this man was not far from Ning Qing. Although he didn't say much, Ning Qing could see that he was interested in his celestial river flame. Seeing the bearded man put away the stainless water in a jade bottle, Ning Qing wanted to curse at him for eating barley and ruining his food. However, In just a few breaths, Ning Cheng's face showed ecstasy. He finally found a way to find the stainless water. Above this black river, there was a vague space, but he could hardly feel it. If it weren't for the bearded man collecting the 2 drops of stainless water and letting him know about the aura of the stainless water, coupled with his extreme sensitivity to the laws of heaven and earth, he would not have been able to find this space. The reason he couldn't feel it was because there was a kind of space here. This space was hidden above the Black River. This space had no laws, just like the land of broken laws. However, it was different from the land of broken laws. Although there were no laws in this space, there were traces of water-attributed Tao charm. This is the place. Ning Cheng's powerful spiritual consciousness finally found a space hidden within the space, without any laws, without any flow of time. Ning Cheng stepped to the side, and the good fortune divine spear patterns rolled up, causing a crack to appear in front of Ning Cheng. Not waiting for the crack to expand, Ning Cheng threw out the crystal bottle refined from the crossing illusory sea crystal. A drop of water, almost invisible, fell into the crossing illusory sea crystal bottle, and Ning Cheng immediately sealed it. Ning Cheng felt overjoyed to receive a drop of stainless water so easily. A jade bottle refined from the crossing illusory sea crystal? Where did you find the crossing illusory sea crystal? The bearded man finally couldn't help but ask Ning Cheng. Before Ning Cheng could speak, the Black River suddenly split open, and a spirit-devouring vine with a diameter of several dozen feet rushed out from the bottom of the river. Then it split into countless tentacles, which simultaneously swept towards Ning Cheng and the bearded man. When the spirit-devouring rattan rushed out of the bottom of the Black River, the chaotic laws of the space around Ning Cheng directly shattered. A violent devouring aura filled the world, and under this devouring aura, Ning Cheng could only feel his own insignificance. The bearded man was still paying attention to Ning Cheng, but when he saw the thick spirit-devouring vine rush out, he did not even think about it, as he directly took out a talisman, and in a twinkling of an eye disappeared without a trace. As soon as the bearded man left, the king-like spirit-devouring vine crazily sealed the space around Ning Cheng. Chapter 1269. The celestial river flame also crazily spread out, forming wave after wave of flame waves around Ning Cheng's body. These huge waves of flames burned all the tentacles that the spirit-devouring vine had split into ashes, but the huge spirit-devouring vine at the bottom of the Black River was like a cockroach that could not be killed. No matter how many tentacles the celestial river flame burned away, more tentacles would appear in the next moment. Ning Cheng could clearly feel that the inexhaustible spirit-devouring rattans in the Black River were providing essence chi to this crazy spirit-devouring rattan king. In the beginning, the celestial river flame and the tentacles of the devouring spirit vine king could still hold each other off. Towards the end, the number of tentacles that the spirit-devouring vine king produced increased. Not only did it increase in number, but it also grew stronger and stronger. The celestial river flame immediately paled in comparison and began to shrink back to defend. Ning Cheng's heart sank. He knew that he couldn't continue like this. If it continued, the celestial river flame would not be able to hold on. The everlasting Blue Thunder City was a defensive magical weapon, but it was not suitable for defending against this kind of spirit-devouring vine king. This thing was just too terrifying. Once entangled with the everlasting Blue Thunder Fort, it could even strangle the everlasting Blue Thunder Fort's artifact spirit. No wonder the bearded man was in such a hurry to escape. He already knew how terrifying the spirit-devouring Vine King was. If that guy didn't leave, he would probably be in a worse situation than himself. He could only blame himself for not making sufficient preparations when he came to look for the stainless water. Ning Cheng wanted to bring out the 5-colored star splitter arrow, but in this case, his 5-colored star splitter arrow might not necessarily be able to kill the spirit-devouring Vine King. Once the 5-colored star splitter arrow failed to kill the spirit-devouring Vine King, he would most likely lose the 5-colored star splitter arrow. Once the 5-colored star splitter arrow was entangled by these spirit-devouring vines, it would be difficult for him to take it back. The laws of space here were also much more stable compared to the laws outside the Jiaoyang mountain. As such, Ning Cheng felt sure that he couldn't tear through the domain boundaries in this place. Bang bang bang. The celestial river flame burned the countless tentacles of the spirit-devouring rattan, creating a series of dull banging sounds. Even so, the space of the spirit-devouring vine's tentacles was getting smaller and smaller. In this space, Ning Cheng could only feel the sound of the burning flames, as well as the terrifying devouring intent of the spirit-devouring vine. The smaller the space, the more powerful the spirit-devouring vine king was. Ning Cheng somewhat missed his underworld crow ghost rattan king. Unfortunately, his underworld crow ghost rattan king was still asleep. Even if he woke up, he might not be able to fight against the devouring spirit vine king. The celestial river flame's fire spirit finally sent a thought to Ning Cheng. It was ready to kill its way out of the Black River. Ning Cheng hesitated a little before stopping the celestial river flame from doing so. The nameless flame's level was still too low, so it couldn't burn the spirit-devouring Vine King yet. If they relied solely on the celestial river flame to open the way, it was highly likely that the spirit-devouring Vine King would devour them while they were still above the Black River. If he wanted to use the celestial river flame to open a path, he would have to inflict heavy damage to the spirit-devouring Vine King. Good Fortune Divine Spear, Everlasting Blue Thunder City, 5-Colored Stars Splitter Arrow, and even the 7 Bridges Spirit Technique. Ning Cheng thought about it for a while and finally decided to use the newly comprehended law-breaking finger. The law-shattering finger tore apart the laws of heaven and earth and controlled all the minute changes under the laws. It was most suitable to deal with the spirit-devouring Vine King. As long as he could sense the changes in the Tao runes of the spirit-devouring Vine King, he was confident that he could hit the weak point of the spirit-devouring Vine King with his finger. Thinking of this, Ning Cheng grabbed a few top-grade God's spiritual veins and threw them into the celestial river flame. At the same time, he sent a thought into the celestial river flame, allowing it to raise the intensity of the flames by a notch. The celestial river flame had long since grown impatient with the spirit-devouring Vine King's entanglement. With the help of a few top-grade God's spiritual veins, the originally shrinking flame waves once again spread out crazily, forming wave after wave of flame waves. The spirit-devouring Vine King, under the impact of the abruptly strengthened flame waves, stopped its frantically spreading tentacles for a moment. In that instant, Ning Cheng shot out a finger. The law-breaking finger shattered the laws of heaven and earth and tore apart all Tao runes. As the fingertip blasted out, a clear picture of the laws of heaven and earth appeared in Ning Cheng's consciousness. At this moment, Ning Cheng could clearly feel the strongest and weakest laws of the spirit-devouring Vine King, as well as the core of the spirit-devouring Vine King's vitality. After the finger blasted out, Ning Cheng's spirit essence and Tao runes surged out like a raging river. The power of laws crazily gathered under the Tao runes in front of the finger, forming a terrifying torrent of Tao runes in an instant. Ning Cheng felt as if he had been sucked dry. He could feel endless Tao charm and spirit essence pouring out from this finger. Boom! Everything in this space dissipated in front of the finger. At this moment, the surrounding heaven and earth instantly emptied out. The spirit-devouring Vine King's frantically spreading tentacles also came to a halt. Under this finger, heaven and earth came to a standstill. Any law in this space, whether it was life or death, turned sluggish after this finger. An extreme sense of weakness washed over Ning Cheng, causing him to feel horrified. It wasn't just the power of the law-breaking finger. More importantly, most of his spirit essence dissipated after this finger. Even his sea of consciousness felt empty. If the spirit-devouring Vine King rushed out like before, Ning Cheng estimated that he could only wait for death. Hurrying away, Ning Cheng's feet moved, and his whole person turned into a shadow. The celestial river flame, which was ready to open a path, had yet to burn the illusory tentacles in front of it when the tentacles turned into withered grass and became paralyzed. Ning Cheng stepped out of the Black River without any mishap and once again stood outside the Black River. Seeing the spirit-devouring Vine King still not recovering in the middle of the Black River, Ning Cheng raised his palm and felt a little shocked. He had tried comprehending the law-breaking finger on the desolate ancient void-breaking tablet before. But that time, it didn't consume much of his strength, nor did it cause such a huge commotion. But now, when he pointed his finger down, he actually created such a terrifying scene. It was simply unbelievable. He had comprehended the law-breaking spirit technique for a long time, and it had always been one of his main means to assist him in fighting against enemies. Back in the Grand Change realm, when dealing with the demonic creatures in the underground abyss, he had used this law-breaking spirit technique to scare them away. He didn't expect that the law-breaking spirit technique, an auxiliary spirit technique, would become so powerful after he comprehended it into an offensive spirit technique. Ning Qing put down his hand with lingering fear. He didn't immediately leave but looked at the black river in front of him. His finger had almost destroyed all the nomological powers that the spirit-devouring Vine King had relied on to attack him. Because of this, he could easily walk away from the spirit-devouring Vine King's tentacles. However, Ning Qing didn't think that he had killed the spirit-devouring Vine King. This spirit-devouring Vine King's strength seemed to be far above his own. It would have been strange if he could kill it so easily. Sure enough, in just a few breaths, the crack in the middle of the black river started to churn out black mist. A cry that sounded like it was crying emerged, and the spirit-devouring Vine King, which seemed to have lost its vitality, started to sway again. To Ning Chang's surprise, this spirit-devouring Vine King didn't chase him to the black river. Instead, it slowly shrank back, and the crack in the middle of the black river also slowly disappeared. In just a few breaths, the black river returned to the same state as when he came, as if nothing had happened here. It was still a dry river, and the endless riverbed was still filled with black worm-like spirit-devouring vines. These spirit-devouring vines entangled together, constantly twisting and fluctuating, looking extremely disgusting. Ning Qing took out 2 Dao restoration pills and swallowed them. He did not intend to leave this place. Now that he had the means to deal with the spirit-devouring Vine King, he had to at least get a few more drops of pure water. With only a drop of pure water, what if he failed in his alchemy? The Jiaoliang mountain was not a good place to be. Who knew if he could come here a second time? A day later, Ning Cheng's strength recovered, and he once again rushed to the top of the Black River. This time, he had the experience and was already prepared. Once the spirit-devouring Vine King dared to attack him, he would immediately use his law-breaking finger. Perhaps the spirit-devouring Vine King already knew about Ning Cheng's power, or perhaps the spirit-devouring Vine King had already suffered heavy injuries. Ning Cheng stayed above the Black River for a full day, but the spirit-devouring Vine King did not split open the Black River to attack Ning Cheng again. Not only that, even the smaller spirit-devouring vines on the riverbed of the Black River ignored Ning Cheng's existence and did not continue to attack him. In the beginning, Ning Cheng stood above the Black River and did not dare to casually look for pure water. But after waiting for another day, Ning Cheng felt sure that the spirit-devouring Vine King would not dare to attack him again. Only then did he step on the celestial river flame and continuously penetrate the riverbed with his spiritual consciousness, looking for pure water. After 3 days, Ning Cheng managed to find a total of 7 drops of stainless water. Just when Ning Cheng was ready to find 10 drops of pure water in one go, the spirit-devouring Vine King on the riverbed once again swayed. A violent emotion spread across the riverbed of the Black River, and a terrifying force seemed ready to rush out of the riverbed at any time and entangle him. Ning Cheng immediately understood that the spirit-devouring Vine King was angry. It seemed that he had taken away 8 drops of pure water, which had already reached the limit of the spirit-devouring Vine King's endurance. Although Ning Cheng had the means to deal with the spirit-devouring Vine King, he did not want to clash with the spirit-devouring Vine King. Now that the spirit-devouring Vine King did not want him to stay here, he did not hesitate to rush out of the Black River. 8 drops of pure water was more than enough for him. As for the consequences of staying here, it was hard to predict. The spirit-devouring Vine King's strength was clearly far above his own. If he did not know the consequences of staying here, who knew what kind of terrifying means the spirit-devouring Vine King had? Sure enough, after Ning Cheng rushed out of the Black River, the violent aura spreading across the riverbed of the Black River gradually calmed down. He could look for Zhong Wuchen and then leave the Jiaoliang mountain. Although Ning Cheng had not been in the Jiaoyang mountain for a long time, he knew that the Jiaoyang mountain had countless treasures. However, his strength was just like an ant in a place like the Jiaoyang mountain. Continuing to stay here was not a wise move. Ning Cheng's figure flashed, and in a short time, he once again returned to the location of the ancient desolate void-breaching steel. The ancient desolate void-breaching steel was covered up by a restriction. If Ning Cheng had not known about such a steel before, he would not have been able to find this place. The concealment restriction arranged by Ku Yusheng and the others did not pose any threat to Ning Cheng. Ning Cheng only needed to throw out a few array flags to easily open the restriction. He then flashed into the canyon behind the ancient desolate void-breaching steel. Ancient desolate void-breaching steel. Did this fellow actually find it? A bearded man in the distance saw Ning Cheng flash into the canyon, and his eyes immediately flashed with ecstasy. Chapter 1270. As soon as Ning Cheng entered the canyon, he felt that something was wrong. The Tao charm here felt fundamentally different from the outside world. After comprehending the order-breaking finger, he had a clearer understanding of the heaven and earth law. In addition, he cultivated the mysterious yellow formless, and had always been in contact with the origin aura. Therefore, as soon as he entered the canyon, he felt that he had not entered a canyon between heaven and earth. Instead, he felt as though he had entered a world of Tao runes laws that had been condensed by someone. Although a strength cultivation method was attractive to Ning Cheng, but he already had something much better than a strength cultivation method, as such he would not take the risk for a cultivation method. It was fine to take risks, but it depended on whether it was worth it. After Ning Cheng felt the difference in this canyon, he did not hesitate to rush out from the side of the desolate ancient void-shattering monument. Just as Ning Cheng retreated, the finger hole in the middle of the desolate ancient void-shattering tablet suddenly erupted with a powerful aura of Tao charm laws. The moment these Taoist runes surged out, they condensed into a faint nomological fingerprint. The finger mark cut through space and pointed towards Ning Cheng's glabella. As the finger descended, the entire world seemed to have disappeared. In Ning Cheng's entire world, in the entire space, only this finger remained. No matter where he went, he would be turned into nothingness by this incomparably violent finger. Unless he frantically retreated all the way to the depths of the canyon. The surging Tao charm blasted down along with this finger, but Ning Cheng remained calm. He even closed his eyes. In this finger, he could clearly see the changes in the laws of heaven and earth, just like what he had comprehended previously. However, the lawbreaker finger that he comprehended was derived from the lawbreaker mystique. It controlled the laws of heaven and earth and tore them apart. This finger was a Tao rune aura condensed from the laws of heaven and earth. This finger was inferior to his law-breaking finger. Ning Cheng's good fortune divine spear was even more stable. When the spear shot out, it directly broke through space and collided with the condensed fingerprint. Boom, boom, boom. Space trembled, Tao rhymes overflowed, and the rules shattered. Under Ning Cheng's good fortune spirit spear, the powerful laws in front of the fingerprint started to crack. Ning Cheng's figure flashed and escaped from the crack. Once again, he stood in front of the desolate ancient void-breaking steel. His spear strike did not break through the Tao runes of the finger seal. Instead, it only caused a crack to appear on the Tao runes. For Ning Cheng, this was more than enough. The reason why he was able to do this was because he had seen through the traces of the Tao runes of this finger. Even the desolate primordial void-shattering finger was only mediocre. Ning Cheng's interest in obtaining the desolate primordial void-shattering art suddenly greatly diminished. The reason why the finger was so powerful was probably because of Tao Lord Pesu's strength. Tao Lord Pesu cultivated strength mystique, so the power of his finger was naturally terrifying. If someone else were to execute the primeval void-shattering finger, would they still be as strong as Tao Lord Pesu? When he reached the third step, the first universe finger wouldn't be called the primeval void-breaking finger. It might even be called the order-breaking finger. At the thought of that, Ning Cheng's heart calmed down completely. He no longer had any interest in the things left behind by Tao Lord Pesu. He wondered how Zhong Wuchen and the others were doing. Although the canyon was not formed by Tao Lord Pasu's essence spirit, it was formed by his Tao runes after he died. If Zhong Wuchen and the others were not careful, not only would they not be able to obtain the treasures, but they would also perish in this place under the remnant Tao runes of the desolate era. Ning Cheng was just about to send a message to Zhong Wuchen to tell him that he was leaving when a figure landed not far in front of him. "It's you." Ning Cheng looked at the bearded man. He knew him. He was the guy who had used the talisman to escape from the Black River. "You're not bad. You're only at the primordial chaos realm, but you were able to escape from the madness of the spirit-devouring Vine King. I underestimated you previously." The bearded man sized Ning Cheng up and said with a chuckle. Ning Cheng sent a message to Zhong Wuchen, telling him that he was leaving. Then, he said faintly, "You're not bad yourself. You have such a precious instantaneous teleportation talisman. Can you tell me why you suddenly came out after entering the primeval void-breaking valley?" The bearded man suddenly changed the topic. He had seen Ning Cheng's action of sending a message. In his opinion, Ning Cheng should have been calling for his companion. However, Ning Cheng was only at the early stage primordial chaos realm. No matter how strong his companion was, he would not take him seriously. Ning Cheng put away the communication pearl, looked at the bearded man, and said calmly, "Does this have anything to do with you? I'll enter if I want to and come out if I don't." The bearded man chuckled again. "Indeed, it has nothing to do with me. However, I've taken a fancy to the illusory sea crystal on you. I've always wanted to use the illusory sea crystal to preserve the stainless water, but I couldn't find such a good thing. How much do you have? Take it all out." Ning Cheng simply ignored this guy. He was going to wait for Zhong Wuchen for an incense stick's time. If Zhong Wuchen did not come out in that time, he would leave. Seeing that Ning Cheng did not speak, the bearded man's face turned cold. Just as he was about to speak, two battered figures rushed out of the primeval void-breaking valley. Their bodies were tattered and mottled, and their Tao runes were scattered. One of them had even lost an arm. "What's going on?" Ning Cheng frowned at the two of them, feeling a little puzzled. He did not wonder why the two of them looked so battered. This valley was formed by Tao Lord Pasu's Tao runes. It would be strange if the two of them were not attacked. What he did not understand was why the two of them were not attacked by the Tao runes of the primeval void-breaking finger. He had been attacked by that terrifying finger as soon as he had exited the primeval void-breaking valley. Fortunately, he had seen the traces of the laws of that finger, which allowed him to escape with ease. "Brother Ku, Brother Zhengzhou, what's going on?" The bearded man asked in surprise when he saw the two of them coming out in a battered state. The two of them were Ku Yusheng and Chu Yuan Zhengzhou, whom Ning Cheng knew. The one who had lost an arm was Ku Yusheng. This guy was not weak, but he had lost an arm. It seemed like he had suffered a great loss in the valley where Tao Lord Pasu had condensed his Tao runes. Ku Yusheng's face was pale, and he looked dispirited. He could not hide his extreme disappointment. Ning Cheng was not surprised by Ku Yusheng's expression. The higher one cultivated, the more important one's physical body became. The physical body of a mighty cultivator was also called the Tao body. Although Ku Yusheng could regrow an arm at any time, his Tao would have cracks. It would be even more difficult to advance to a higher level. If what Zhong Wuchen said was true, then Ku Yusheng would not be able to reach the third step in the short term. "Brother Lu, why are you here with Daoist Ning?" Although Chu Yuan Zhengzhou looked battered, he was in a much better state than Ku Yusheng. At least he was not severely injured and his physical body was intact. "Daoist Ning?" The bearded man looked at Ning Cheng in confusion. Just as he was about to speak, a few more battered figures rushed out. Sure enough, they were Ji Man, Mao Tianqi, Min Husheng, and Zhong Wuchen. Zhong Wuchen had a big bloody hole in his chest, but his physical body was intact. Min Husheng had lost half of his calf, and Mao Tianqi and Ji Man were injured like Chu Yuan Zhengzhou, but their physical bodies were not injured. "Daoist Ning, if I had known earlier, I would have followed you and not entered this damn place. Tao Lord Pasu is too unkind." After he died, he used his Dao runes to form a canyon and send us to our deaths, Zhong Wuchen grumbled the moment he came out, his tone filled with complaints. Ning Qing chuckled. Old Zhong, you didn't get the primeval void-breaking technique? Zhong Wuchen glanced at Min Husheng. The primeval void-breaking technique has its owner. I didn't get anything when I went in, but I came out covered in blood. When Ning Qing saw Zhong Wuchen's gaze, he knew that Min Husheng had obtained the cultivation technique. In that case, let's go. We don't want to affect others' comprehension of the primeval void-breaking finger and become Dao Lord Pe Su's successor. Ning Qing called out to Zhong Wuchen and turned to leave. He and Min Husheng did not see eye to eye, and Min Husheng's current strength was slightly stronger than his. Wait! The bearded man suddenly called out to Ning Qing. He had thought that Ning Qing was a small ant. He had not expected that Ning Qing would know Chu Yuan Zhengzhou and Ku Yusheng, as well as a late-stage Dao integration realm and possibly a half-step creation realm friend. Ning Qing stopped and looked at the bearded man coldly. Why? Do you want to snatch my things? After saying that, he turned to look at Chu Yuan Zhengzhou. Daoist Zhengzhou, who is this guy? He looks amazing. Chu Yuan Zhengzhou said to Ning Qing with a bitter smile, Daoist Ning, this is Daoist Lu Saishi from the remote cliff weapon pavilion of heavens beyond. After saying that, Chu Yuan Zhengzhou did not introduce Ning Qing to Lu Saishi. Even Chu Yuan Zhengzhou did not know who Ning Qing was or where he came from. When Lu Saishi heard Chu Yuan Zhengzhou speak to Ning Qing like that, he no longer looked as confident as before. Chu Yuan Zhengzhou was a third-step creation realm expert who was not weaker than him. In addition to the sacred Dao sect, there were 6 major forces and 7 third-step experts in heavens beyond. In terms of strength, Chu Yuan Zhengzhou was slightly above him. That's right. I'm Lu Saishi from the remote cliff weapon pavilion. Was the bottle you used to store the taintless water refined with the Mirage Sea Crystal? I heard that the bottle refined with the Mirage Sea Crystal will not pollute the taintless water. It seems to be true, right? Since Ning Qing only knew experts, Lu Saishi spoke to Ning Qing in a much more polite tone than before. This time, without waiting for Ning Qing to speak, Li Man looked at Ning Qing in shock and asked, You have the Mirage Sea Crystal? Let's go, old Zhong. Ning Qing simply did not bother to answer Lu Saishi and Li Man's words. These two people were definitely not good people. Li Man had tried to stop him from entering the ancient desolation void-breaking canyon. Ever since Lu Saishi had seen that he had the Mirage Sea Crystal, he had only one thought, and that was to take away all the Mirage Sea Crystals on him. Hold on. Give me your Mirage Sea Crystal and the bottle containing the taintless water. You can name the price. Lu Saishi blocked in front of Ning Qing and Zhong Wuchen. Ning Qing did not even want to speak this time. He said to Zhong Wuchen directly, Old Zhong, step aside. I have long wanted to exercise my hands and feet. This time, not only did Zhong Wuchen step aside, but Chu Yuan Zhengzhou and the others also consciously stepped aside. If Ning Qing wanted to fight with Lu Saishi, no one would stop him. Chapter 1271. Lu Saishi finally felt a little strange. Chu Yuan Zhengzhou had taken the initiative to step aside, which clearly showed that this primordial chaos sacred emperor had the strength to fight against him. Otherwise, Chu Yuan Zhengzhou would never have done this. He was a creation realm expert, so why would Chu Yuan Zhengzhou and the others need to step aside to deal with an early-stage primordial chaos sacred emperor? In fact, Chu Yuan Zhengzhou and the others not only stepped aside but also did not reprimand the early-stage primordial chaos sacred emperor in front of them. He recalled the primordial chaos sacred emperor who had destroyed the Lu family in heavens beyond and felt a trace of fear. If he could crush the other party, then it would be fine. However, if he could not crush the other party knew his origin. This was not a good thing for him. In that case, let me see Daoist Ning's supernormal power. If I'm lucky enough to win, I hope Daoist Ning will take out the Mirage Sea Crystal to trade. Lu Saishi stepped forward and a huge drum appeared under his feet again. This time, he spoke to Ning Cheng much more politely and did not use the tone of, "You must take out the Mirage Sea Crystal. Don't be so long-winded." Ning Cheng grabbed the creation divine spear and blasted it out. How could he not know what Lu Saishi meant? Lu Saishi might have spoken politely to him because of the attitude of Chu Yuan Zhengzhou and the others. If he was not Lu Saishi's opponent and was suppressed by the other party, it would not be a trade. Instead, Lu Saishi would kill him directly and plunder his belongings. The creation divine spear blasted out with a spear-intent killing aura that filled the sky. Lu Saishi relaxed when he saw Ning Cheng's spear. The primordial chaos sacred emperor in front of him was indeed stronger than ordinary primordial chaos sacred emperors. However, it was not enough in his eyes. This spear Dao rune did not pose much of a threat to him. Lu Saishi snorted. "In that case, let me see what you're capable of." As he spoke, he moved his feet slightly and a long whip rolled up endless whip patterns. The whip patterns instantly turned into layers of rippling space, completely blocking Ning Cheng's spear intent. Moreover, the whip patterns came wave after wave, constantly rolling and suppressing Ning Cheng's spear aura. It looked like Ning Cheng had fallen into a disadvantageous position in the first exchange. At the very least, Lu Saishi's whip patterns Dao charm suppressed Ning Cheng's spear intent Dao charm. Only Zhong Wuchen, who was familiar with Ning Cheng, and Mao Tianqi, who had fought against Ning Cheng in the past, understood that this suppressive spear intent was definitely not the main means of Ning Cheng's attack. At the same time, the people who were familiar with Lu Ceci also knew that the whip lines that suppressed Ning Cheng were not Lu Ceci's main means of attack. Boom! The spear intent Daoist rhymes and the whip marks clashed together, causing the entire space to explode, producing a terrifying explosion of Daoist rhymes. Boom! Just as the sound of the explosion appeared, another dull sound abruptly rang out. Although this sound was much deeper, the explosion of Dao runes was completely suppressed by this sound. The dull sound of the drum felt as if the world itself had collapsed, as it rushed towards Ning Cheng. Just as Zhong Wuchen had guessed, Ning Cheng's method was not the killing power of the spear intent, but the order-breaking finger spirit technique. He decided to see if the order-breaking finger could directly suppress a so-called third-step expert like Lu Ceci. If the order-breaking finger could suppress Lu Ceci, then he would no longer be a threat to heavens beyond. If the order-breaking finger couldn't suppress Lu Ceci, then Ning Cheng was ready to go to the Great Change Realm to refine the Dao detoxification pill. He only had 2 bestowing lawless fruits, so Ning Cheng couldn't accept failing once. Ning Cheng had the experience of refining the heavenly heaven essence pill, so he was worried that refining pills in a place with incomplete laws would lead to failure. Heavens Beyond and the Great Change Realm were both places with complete laws. However, the heaven and earth laws in Heavens Beyond were more stable and powerful. Choosing to refine pills in Heavens Beyond was obviously better than refining pills in the Great Change Realm. This was also the reason why Ning Cheng was in a hurry to go back. Ning Cheng wasn't worried about the weakening of his sea of consciousness and the exhaustion of his spirit essence after using the order-breaking finger. He still had the quintessential essence of the universe. If someone wanted to take advantage of him under such circumstances, he would immediately use a drop of the quintessential essence of the universe. Compared to his life, a drop of the quintessential essence of the universe was nothing. Ning Cheng's thoughts were very thorough, but when the drum sound came out, Ning Cheng's entire mind felt as if it had been hit by a huge hammer. An indistinct voice of the heavenly Tao descended, bombarding his mind and spirit continuously. Amidst the ripples of the drum sound, his sea of consciousness was completely suppressed, and the Tao runes of the great Tao began to dissipate. Wanting to use the order-breaking finger at this time was undoubtedly a pipe dream. Scenes appeared in his consciousness. He saw Tian Muan casually give away his pearl hair clip. He saw the mysterious yellow light fall and he was killed on the viaduct. He saw the insect tied on earth, saw Luofei being chased in the desert, and saw the sifting orchid star, where Qianghua was located, explode. He saw the 10 ice walls, saw the words left by Yu Qing on the ice walls, and saw Yu Qing slowly disappear in his arms, dong dong. Ning Cheng's mind was once again bombarded by the huge drum, and a kind of enlightenment appeared in Ning Cheng's mind. What joy is there in life, what bitterness is there in death? Life is short, why not go? Puff! Essence blood spurted out, and the Tao runes around Ning Cheng's body shattered inch by inch. Even his vitality began to dissipate. The killing power of the spear intent, which could contend against Lu Ceci, fell into a complete disadvantage at this moment and was about to collapse. Is this the sky-toppling twilight drum? Zhong Wuchen looked at the huge drum under Lu Ceci's feet in shock. Even if he wasn't fighting against Lu Ceci, the aftermath of the drum sound still made him feel a sense of panic. There were many weapons in the world that weren't Xiantian weapons, but they were no weaker than Xiantian weapons. Two of the most famous weapons were the Morning Bell and Twilight Drum. The sky-toppling Twilight Drum was the Twilight Drum of the Morning Bell and Twilight Drum. Even if the opponent was slightly stronger than the user, the Twilight Drum could make up for the lack of cultivation. Both the Morning Bell and Twilight Drum were weapons with Tao runes that could enhance the owner's Tao runes. Fusing them with spirit techniques, it became a killing weapon. Chu Yuan Zhengzhou and the others looked at the battle in front of them in silence. They didn't find it surprising that Ning Cheng fell into a disadvantageous position. Chu Yuan Zhengzhou knew that his strength was slightly better than Lu Ceci's. However, Lu Ceci had the sky-toppling Twilight Drum, which meant that he wasn't any weaker than him. Once the Twilight Drum exploded, he feared that even he wouldn't be able to block the Tao runes contained within it. The blood at the corner of Ning Cheng's mouth had already injured him. However, the mysterious yellow origin aura and the body-forging cultivation method started to heal Ning Cheng's injuries. As the origin aura soaked in, Ning Cheng's consciousness became clear in an instant. Cultivating the Tao was a matter of competing for the heaven and earth's Tao fate. It was a fight for a chance of survival. How could one have such decadent emotions like, life is short, what joy is there in living? If you want me to live, I will live. If you don't want me to live, I will live. My life is up to me, and my Tao is up to me. It's not something that can be controlled by the sound of a drum. Wandering the starry sky, crossing countless voids, for what? That's so-called false enlightenment, get the hell out of here. Ning Cheng's sea of consciousness became extremely clear at this moment. At the same time that Ning Cheng understood his Tao, the long whip cut through Ning Cheng's domain. The good fortune divine spear in Ning Cheng's hand only had time to turn into a few spear patterns before it clashed with the long whip. Bang bang. This time, it was the spirit essence explosion, which directly shattered the shattering laws in the space where the two were located. Ning Cheng, who was in a hurry, suffered a big loss. Lu Ceci's long whip broke several of his sternum. Ning Cheng, who flew backwards, took in a deep breath of cold air. He even felt some lingering fear. If he had woken up half a breath later, Lu Ceci's whip would have cut him in half. At this moment, Ning Cheng didn't want to immediately step forward and attack Lu Ceci. Instead, he recalled the transaction he had with Ji Fengyu's spiritual soul in the perpetual moon abyss. At this moment, Ning Cheng didn't want to immediately step forward and attack Lu Ceci. Instead, he recalled the transaction with Ji Fengyu's spiritual soul in the perpetual moon abyss. Ji Fengyu said that his Tao heart had a scar and that he couldn't reach the third step of Tao confirming, so he traded a recalling Bodhi seed with him. Just now, he was completely immersed in the sound of the drum, and scenes appeared in his mind. Which scene was the scar of his Tao heart? Ning Cheng didn't immediately step forward. Lu Ceci also stared at Ning Cheng in shock. Even if he couldn't kill Ning Cheng with the sound of the drum of dusk, he could at least damage his Tao body. But the fact was that his sound of the drum of dusk only broke the other party's sternum and caused him to spit out a mouthful of blood. Although he managed to defeat the other party's Tao runes, the other party quickly recovered, causing him to fall short of success. If he continued to fight, Lu Ceci wouldn't be able to kill this person. This person's spirit essence was weaker than his, and the strength of his spiritual consciousness didn't seem to be as strong as his. But this person was very strange. After the third sound of the drum of dusk, he could still escape unscathed. He was the first person he met. Originally, Lu Ceci wanted to kill Ning Cheng for the illusory sea crystal and the stainless water. In addition, he also wanted to make the creation realm experts of the heavens beyond heaven a little afraid of him, so he attacked with a killer move. He didn't expect that even so, he couldn't kill Ning Cheng. Daoist friend Ning really lives up to his reputation. In that case, before Lu Ceci could finish his words, Ning Cheng sneered. You don't want to fight anymore after taking advantage of me? In that case, you can also take a blow from me. I can also use the Intent Realm Dao Rune Spirit technique. Ning Cheng took half a step forward, and the Creation Divine Spear brought out half an arc as the surging Dao runes rushed towards Lu Ceci. The Dao runes turned into yellow sand and fluttered in the air. The surging yellow sand spread out in front of Lu Ceci, and the spectators couldn't see anything except for the desolate Dao runes surrounding them. None to depend on, yellow sand rises. A thin horse stands on the west wind ancient road. Long, tear-stained robes, Ning Cheng's Intent Realm Spirit technique, none to depend on. As soon as Lu Ceci landed on the yellow sand ancient road, he knew that it wasn't good. He didn't hesitate to kick the drum of dusk under his feet, and the same Intent Realm Spirit technique swept over. The two completely different Intent Realm Dao runes collided, and Ning Cheng's none to depend on image instantly weakened and blurred. Ning Cheng didn't care about it. Even after confirming his Dao to Dao fusion, the none to depend on spirit technique had grown thousands of times stronger than before. He knew that it was impossible to suppress Lu Ceci with the none to depend on spirit technique. Moreover, he didn't expect the none to depend on spirit technique to kill him. His killer move was the order-breaking finger. Ning Cheng's none to depend on Intent Realm Spirit technique and Lu Ceci's Twilight Drum's Intent Realm Spirit technique clashed. The Dao runes exploded, and the two's intents shattered at the same time. Lu Ceci grew even more fearful and didn't want to continue fighting with Ning Cheng. Just as he was about to fly out, he saw Ning Cheng point out with a finger. Chapter 1272. As the finger blasted down, all the laws shattered. The Drum of Dusk's intent concept and Dao charm instantly dissipated, and even Ning Cheng's none to depend on spirit technique completely dissipated. Under the shattering laws, the onlooker's spiritual consciousness could only see a collapsed space. Everything in this collapsed space was under Ning Cheng's majestic finger. In this space, Ning Cheng's finger was the king, the Dao. As long as this finger willed it, anything under it would turn into nothingness. Ning Cheng even closed his eyes. As this finger blasted out, his spirit essence and spiritual consciousness poured down. Everything in the space became very clear under his law-breaking finger, appearing down to the finest detail. Lu Ceci's Grand Dao charm, and even the Drum of Dusk spirit technique, appeared in Ning Cheng's consciousness at this moment. Ning Cheng could easily feel the weakness of Lu Ceci's Grand Dao. Therefore, his finger blasted into the weak spot without hesitation. Primordial void shattering finger. Li Man exclaimed with extreme shock in her eyes. Ning Cheng hadn't been here for long, yet he managed to comprehend the primordial void shattering finger. It was just too terrifying. At this moment, everyone stared at Ning Cheng's finger and the majestic Dao charm traces that rolled up after it shattered the laws. If Lu Ceci's Drum of Dusk was equivalent to mobilizing the space between the sky and blasting down, then Ning Cheng's finger completely controlled the entire space between the two. In this space, he didn't need to mobilize it, he just needed to control it. In this space, this finger had the final say. Lu Ceci's eyes flashed with horror. After he saw Ning Cheng's finger, the space around him turned into nothingness. Under this finger, he felt as if he couldn't hide anything. The other party could easily see his Achilles heel and his weaknesses. Under this finger, there were no laws, no space, no vitality, only the aura of death. Ka. Lu Ceci's protective Dao charm shattered like a piece of paper. At this moment, Lu Ceci fully understood why Ning Cheng had to use a concept spirit technique before bringing out this finger. The other party had calculated that after he used the yellow sand intent domain, he would use the sky-toppling Drum of Dusk intent domain to block it. After his drum of dusk blocked the yellow sand intent domain, he could only accept his fate. No, he, Lu Ceci, had cultivated from a mere mortal to the third step of the creation realm. Even if the laws of the entire world were destroyed by this finger, even if the entire space did not belong to him, Lu Ceci would not accept his fate. Poof, a blood shadow spurted out. Ning Cheng's finger contained a majestic Dao charm that easily shattered half of Lu Cexi's calf. The Dao charm spread out, and it felt as if Ning Cheng's Dao charm would shatter Lu Cixi into pieces in the next moment. Dong! A drum sound that sounded like it came from the deepest depths of the earth rang out at this moment. Ning Cheng's law-breaking finger's Dao charm paused for a moment, and the void suddenly gained some life force. The broken laws also started to slowly condense again. Catcha, with a cracking sound, Ning Cheng's law-breaking finger finally stopped. The clear law flaw in his consciousness also disappeared without a trace. At this moment, Lu Ceci managed to escape from the law-breaking finger's sure-kill space. His face turned pale as he landed a few dozen feet away and stared at Ning Cheng in horror. Ning Cheng looked at Lu Ceci's cracked drum and sighed slightly. He didn't continue to attack. Just like how Lu Ceci's drum intense spirit technique couldn't kill him, Ning Cheng's finger couldn't kill Lu Ceci. As such, he wouldn't have another chance. Lu Ceci would never give him a second chance. In terms of strength, he was even weaker than Lu Ceci. However, this time, it was enough for this fellow to eat a pot. Under his law-breaking spirit technique, Lu Ceci even brought out the drum intent to break his law-breaking finger. It wasn't because Lu Ceci had the strength to condense new laws and ignore his law-breaking finger. Instead, Lu Ceci had used his drum to crack itself and then used the drum's laws to condense the drum's sound spirit technique. Now that Ning Cheng had destroyed half of Lu Ceci's calf and cracked his drum, his combat effectiveness would plummet before his drum recovered. This isn't the primordial void-shattering finger. Mao Tianqi had fought against Ning Cheng before, so he understood Ning Cheng very well. When he saw Ning Cheng's finger, he immediately understood that it wasn't the primordial void-shattering finger. Chu Yuan Zhengzhou also nodded. He thought that Mao Tianqi was right. At this time, Li Man could also see that Ning Cheng wasn't using the primordial void-shattering finger. This finger seemed more mysterious than the Dao charm of the primordial void-shattering finger. It even had an aura of the laws of heaven and earth within it. Lu Ceci swallowed a few medicinal pills, and his broken leg grew back in an instant. Everyone knew that he was just like a bitter fish. His advancement to the Dao had been temporarily hindered by this broken leg. If he wanted to advance, he would have to put in several times or even dozens of times more effort than others. Ning Cheng held the good fortune divine spear and slowly took a few steps forward. Then, he said to Lu Ceci, who was staring at him with extreme fear, "I don't want to give you the illusory sea crossing crystal and the stainless water. Do you have a problem with that?" Risisi took a deep breath. Because of the beard covering his face, his pale complexion was now much better. He was no longer shocked and overflowing with killing intent. Instead, he calmly said to Ning Cheng with cupped fists, "Daoist Ning, your divine power is powerful. I naturally have no problem with that." After saying that, he cupped his fists again to Chu Yuan Zhengzhou and the others. "I'll leave first. Goodbye." Then, he turned into a shadow and disappeared in an instant. "Old Zhong, we're leaving too." When Ning Cheng saw Lu Ceci leave alone, he knew that there would be no problem in going to the heavens beyond to refine elixirs. He had used the illusory sea crossing crystal to suppress the outbreak of the salvation adversity poison. There should be no problem in rushing to the heavens beyond to refine elixirs. There were many opportunities and treasures on the Jiaoyang mountain. Just like Mang Yong had said, he could even look for the third step Dao validation opportunity. However, Ning Cheng vaguely felt that he was not looking for treasures or the third step Dao validation opportunity. What he needed now was to detoxify the poison and then perfect his Dao heart. In the beginning, Ji Fengyu had said that his Dao heart was scarred, but Ning Cheng had not taken it to heart. This battle with Lu Saishi had given Ning Qing a vague feeling in his heart, that is, his Dao heart truly had some scars. If he could not perfect his Dao marks, he might never be able to set foot on the third step, just like Ji Fengyu had said. As for searching for treasures on the Jiaoyang mountain, he was not in a hurry. Even creation realm experts were nothing here. It would not be too late to come back after he had mended his Dao heart in the future. The Jiaoyang mountain was boundless, and he was at the edge at best. Who knew how big the depths of the Jiaoyang mountain were? Who knew if there were real almighties in the depths of the Jiaoyang mountain? For him, he had to reach the third step of Dao validation. Otherwise, he wouldn't have been able to withstand the handprint that had stretched out to the Great Change realm in the past. Zhong Wuchen felt helpless. He actually wanted to stay here and comprehend the Seven Bridges' divine power while doing other things. Now that Ning Qing wanted to leave, he could only follow. Chu Yuan Zhengzhou was the first to greet Ning Qing. Daoist Ning, if you go to the heavens beyond in the future, remember to come to my heavens beyond rest stop. Ku Yusheng had already recovered his arm. Although his eyes looked a little lonely, he still greeted Ning Qing. Even Li Man cupped her fists towards Ning Qing to show her respect. Only Min Husheng and Mao Tianqi remained expressionless towards Ning Qing. They did not want to provoke Ning Qing, nor did they want to interact with him. Daoist Ning, people who have been poisoned by the salvation adversity poison generally do not last long. Moreover, the illusory sea crystal and the stainless water cannot completely remove the salvation adversity poison. It was not easy for us to cross the Jiaoyang mountain. Why don't we stay here and look for some opportunities? After leaving Chu Yuan Zhengzhou and the others, Zhong Wuchen finally could not help but say that he really wanted to stay here. Ning Qing naturally understood what Zhong Wuchen meant. This guy's main purpose for staying here was not for the various Dharma treasures, but to find a way to reach the third step of Dao validation. Ning Qing said calmly, "Old Zhong, you can stay here." Zhong Wuchen quickly said with a smile, "Daoist Ning, you must be joking. How can I stay here alone?" With a smile on his face, Zhong Wuchen cursed in his heart. "If you had given me the Seven Bridges Realm book, I would not have wanted to be with you." Ning Qing chuckled. "Old Zhong, I want to go to heavens beyond and open a heaven's yellow elixir dispensary there. After you leave this place, you can go to heavens beyond and find me to cultivate the Seven Bridges spiritual technique. Anyway, I promised you that I would definitely let you learn the first 5 bridges." "Are you serious?" Zhong Wuchen asked in surprise. "It's up to you whether you believe me or not. I said that I would open an elixir dispensary in heavens beyond, so I will go there." Ning Qing did not care whether Zhong Wuchen believed him or not. To Ning Cheng's surprise, Zhong Wuchen said without hesitation, "Okay, I believe you. After I leave this place, I will immediately go to heavens beyond." Ning Cheng looked at Zhong Wuchen with some doubts. He knew the influence and attraction of the Seven Bridges spiritual technique on Zhong Wuchen. This guy was actually at ease to stay in this place and not go to heavens beyond with him. He was still counting on Zhong Wuchen to be a free thug and help him cover Ali in heavens beyond while he was in seclusion. "Old Zhong, I naturally keep my word. However, what are you looking for here? Or did you find something?" Ning Qing did not believe that Zhong Wuchen would stay there without a goal. Zhong Wuchen smiled awkwardly. "I know I can't hide it from you. I did gain something from Dao Lord Pasu's Dao Rune Canyon. I got something left behind by Dao Lord Pasu. I know the approximate location of the strength cultivation technique and am ready to go and take a look. Of course, if Daoist Ning is willing, we can join forces and share the cultivation technique we obtain." Ning Qing waved his hand. "No need. You can go by yourself. If you really obtain the strength cultivation technique, you can let me take a look. Of course, I won't let you suffer a loss. I will also take out something equally good." Of course, of course." Zhong Wuchen laughed dryly. After making an appointment to go to heavens beyond, he entered the god's tomb mound again. Ning Qing did not care. He had already arrived at the border between the God's Tomb Mound and the Jiaoyang Sea. Just as he was about to bring out the starry sky wheel, a disheveled figure rushed to the God's Tomb Mound and crashed in his direction. Chapter 1273. The moment this figure appeared in the range of Ning Cheng's spiritual consciousness, Ning Cheng immediately recognized it. The middle-stage primordial Tao cultivator was Duan Guanyu, who had an ordinary appearance and a medium build. "It's you." When Duan Guanyu rushed in front of Ning Cheng, he saw Ning Cheng standing at the edge of the god's grave mound and exclaimed in surprise. At this moment, Duan Guanyu was covered in blood. His hair was messy and he had lost one of his ears. He looked as if he had been tortured. "So it's fellow Taoist Duan. Is fellow Taoist Duan going to the god's grave mound? Please go ahead," Ning Cheng said as he moved to the side. In fact, anyone could enter the god's graveyard mound from anywhere. There was no need for Ning Cheng to step aside. "You just came out of the mound of the god's mausoleum?" Duan Guanyu looked at Ning Cheng in shock. The god's grave mound was not a place that ordinary people could enter. If he knew that the mound of the god's mausoleum was in front of him, he would definitely not have entered. At this moment, Ning Cheng stood on the edge of the god's grave mound without a single speck of dust on his body. Not to mention injuries, even his hair was not messed up. It was precisely because of this that Duan Guanyu was shocked. He did not know that Ning Cheng and Lu Ceci had fought, and was even injured. "Yes, I just came out of the god's graveyard mound. However, I have to tell you that it's not easy to come out alive after going in." Ning Cheng did not conceal it. Duan Guanyu's eyes were on his forehead, as such Ning Cheng did not want to remind him. After all, they had all come to Mount Jiaoyang together. After thinking for a while, he casually mentioned it. Seeing Ning Cheng turn around to leave, Duan Guanyu suddenly thought of something and quickly bowed to Ning Cheng once again and spoke, "Brother Ning, I know that your spirit techniques are definitely more powerful than mine. Now, Dao friend Xu Yong and Dao friend Shen Xiuying are in a predicament, and only I managed to escape. I hope that Brother Ning can help us." Ning Cheng looked at Duan Guanyu in doubt. According to his understanding of Duan Guanyu, this person was definitely not a person who would put the lives of his companions in his heart. So why was he worried about Mang Yong and Shen Xiuying at this time? "Oh, it looks like the few of you found the place to reach the third step of Dao confirming." Ning Cheng didn't have such noble character and unquestionable integrity. "We found the place where the invisible Dao Lord died. We even saw the invisible Dao scroll there." "Wait." Ning Cheng interrupted Duan Guanyu's words, "Who is Dao Monarch Invisible? What is the formless Dao scroll?" Duan Guanyu took out an elixir pill, swallowed it, and said anxiously, "I heard that Dao Lord Invisible is a peerless expert who is only one step away from the third step, the creation realm. He participated in the ancient creation war." Ning Cheng once again interrupted Duan Guanyu's words, and asked in a cold tone, "How do you know about this kind of thing?" Regarding the ancient good fortune war, even the old fogey and Zhong Wuchen did not know much about it. Therefore, Ning Cheng did not believe that a mere Duan Guanyu could know so much about it. Duan Guanyu hurriedly explained, "We didn't know about this before. We only found out about this after we entered the place where Dao Lord Invisible perished. After the formless Dao monarch succeeded in creating a realm, he felt that his realm was a failure and that it wasn't enough for him to climb to greater heights. He resolutely tore open his own world and turned to search the vast universe." Listening to Duan Guanyu's words, Ning Cheng suddenly remembered the formless Tai cultivation method. He wondered if the formless Dao Lord had anything to do with the formlessness of the Tai formlessness. Thinking of this, he felt a little more interested in the formless Dao monarch that Duan Guanyu mentioned. After all, he came from the grand essence realm of the 5 grand realms. Duan Guanyu continued, "After countless years of searching the universe, Dao Lord Invisible found a hidden innate plane domain in the void of the universe. At the same time, 4 other experts also discovered this hidden innate void domain. Dao Lord Invisible and the 4 experts worked together to blast open this hidden innate void domain. In this place, they discovered 5 enormous new realms between planes and realms. These 5 realms' heaven and earth laws were complete and stable, and the spirit chi was abundant, which made Tao Lord Invisible's group of 5 overjoyed. Just when they wanted to occupy a new realm and reintegrate it into their own world, a golden light filled with the aura of heaven and earth Tao charms suddenly rushed out from the center of this huge world. Tao Lord Invisible's group of 5 rushed over to snatch it at the same time. In the end, this Tao charm golden light turned into 5 groups, and each of the 5 grabbed one of them. The 5 huge worlds between planes and interfaces you mentioned, are they the 5 grand realms? Ning Qing asked in a deep voice. Duan Guanyu nodded, yes, they are the 5 grand realms. The world that Tao Lord Invisible occupied was called the Grand Change Realm. After he shattered his own realm, he successfully merged with the Grand Change Realm and became the head of the 5 grand realms. The golden light he snatched also became the most precious treasure of his realm. Tao Lord Invisible left a message saying that he and the other 4 people gathered again after they each grabbed a golden light and successfully merged with their realms. The 5 people merged the 5 golden lights together and finally formed 7 cultivation methods. They were the Devil Scroll, Buddha Scroll, Tao Scroll, Immortal Scroll, Heaven Scroll, Earth Scroll, and Human Scroll. Only by merging these 7 cultivation methods could one form a complete formless cultivation method. Because Tao Lord Invisible led this matter, this cultivation method was named after Tao Lord Invisible's Taoist name. So this was how the formless cultivation method came about. Ning Qing thought about the Grand Change Sacred Devil Art and Grand Change True Tao formula. It seemed that these 2 cultivation methods were just a part of the formless cultivation method. At this time, Ning Qing also understood why Duan Guanyu was so enthusiastic about saving Mang Yong and Xin Xiuying. It must be because the place where Tao Lord Invisible died had great benefits. Is the place where Tao Lord Invisible died with these 7 cultivation methods? Ning Qing stared at Duan Guanyu and asked. Duan Guanyu knew what he was thinking, but Ning Qing didn't feel the slightest bit guilty. In any case, it wasn't a bad thing for Mang Yong and the others. The place where Tao Lord Invisible died had a powerful restriction isolating it. We couldn't even get in before we were trapped. As for whether these 7 cultivation methods exist or not, I'm not sure. I only managed to escape because I had a top-grade restriction-breaking talisman. I thought they would catch up soon. But since they haven't caught up to me, it must be. Duan Guanyu didn't continue, but Ning Qing knew what he meant. That was, the other party might have already killed Mang Yong and Xin Xiuying and taken the treasures. Naturally, they wouldn't have to chase after Duan Guanyu. Since it involved the 5 grand realms, Ning Qing already had the intention to check it out. He wasn't worried that Duan Guanyu would make up a story to deceive him. After all, Duan Guanyu couldn't come up with such a thing. Even if he made it up, Ning Qing wasn't afraid. What he worried about was the place where Tao Lord Invisible died. A peak Tao Lord of the Unity Realm fell. He didn't believe that there wouldn't be any traps. Tao Lord Pusu had already proved that even if these peerless powerhouses fell, none of them were good guys. Even Ku Yusheng was severely injured. Ning Cheng's strength might not be as good as Ku Yusheng. The only advantage he had was the fusion of the everlasting Blue Thunder City's artifact spirit. Brother Ning, the invisible cultivation method is one of the top 10 cultivation methods in the vast universe. It ranks 3rd. If there's an invisible cultivation method. Seeing Ning Qing hesitate, Duan Guanyu felt a little anxious. Ning Qing knew that Duan Guanyu was wrong. The invisible cultivation method was indeed one of the top 10 cultivation methods, but it wasn't ranked 3rd but 6th. He just didn't know who was stronger between Tao Lord Pusu and Tao Lord Invisible. Let's go. You lead the way. Let's go and have a look. Ning Qing hesitated a little but decided to go and have a look. Moreover, he had to go. According to Tao Lord Invisible's message, although the 5 grand realms existed when the heavens opened, they were merged by the 5 great powerhouses. Since the Grand Change Realm was merged by Tao Lord Invisible, the Grand Essence Realm naturally wouldn't be spared. If he restored the Grand Essence Realm but ended up restoring a peerless powerhouse from the Unity Realm, he wouldn't even have a place to cry. Ning Qing didn't believe that all those peerless powerhouses would talk to Tsang Wei and not covet his mysterious yellow bead. Moreover, senior apprentice brother Tsang Wei also said that it wasn't that he didn't covet the mysterious yellow bead, but for other reasons. In the eyes of those Unity Realm powerhouses, his life was probably no different from that of an ant. Yes, Brother Ning, come with me. Duan Guanyu spoke with a surprised expression. After that, he immediately turned around and rushed forward. Ning Qing saw an escape talisman in Duan Guanyu's hand, but he didn't care about it. If this fellow didn't find a good way to escape, then even if he had a treasure, he wouldn't dare to look for it. The two moved quickly, and after just 2 hours, Duan Guanyu stopped. Is it here? Ning Qing looked at the huge crack in front of him and asked. He felt puzzled because there were too many of these cracks in the Jiaoyang Sea. The Jiaoyang Sea didn't have any water, and apart from a variety of coral reefs, demonic beast skeletons, and some weapon fragments, these cracks were the most common. Just like a dry river bottom after a drought, these cobweb-like cracks could be seen everywhere. Yes, I'm sure it's here. After going down from here, this mark is different from the others. It's an axe mark. Duan Guanyu quickly said. In fact, Ning Qing didn't need Duan Guanyu to say those words. This wasn't a natural crack, but an axe mark. It's just that the Dao charm of the axe mark was deeply hidden. If one didn't look closely, they wouldn't be able to see it. Did this come from the good fortune indestructible axe? For Dao Monarch Formless to die under the good fortune indestructible axe, he must have gained some face. Ning Qing exclaimed and muttered to himself. Duan Guanyu shook his head. No, this is just the aftermath of the good fortune indestructible axe's attack. Dao Monarch Formless suffered heavy injuries under the axe line's aftermath, and finally fell to another powerhouse's sneak attack. It seems that the person who plotted against him also died in this place. Duan Guanyu knew about this, which meant that he must have seen it from below. Since Dao Monarch Formless left behind so much information before his death, then maybe he could find more information about the mysterious yellow bead. This time, Ning Qing didn't need Duan Guanyu to speak any nonsense. He directly brought out the everlasting Blue Thunder City. Under the protection of the everlasting Blue Thunder City, he jumped into the crack. Chapter 1274. Seeing Ning Qing enter, Duan Guanyu also jumped in behind him. Ning Chang's followers' strength was definitely much stronger than Duan Guanyu. From this, it could be seen that Ning Qing definitely wasn't weak. A Dao monarch's belongings, even if he could only obtain a corner, he would still be satisfied. The canyon was extremely deep, and as soon as Ning Qing landed, he could feel the Dao charm of the indestructible axe getting stronger and stronger. He was very familiar with this Dao charm. The indestructible axe's blade fragment that Zhong Wuchen gave him contained a vague aura of this Dao charm. Fortunately, it did not isolate his spiritual consciousness and spirit essence. Ning Qing sped up, and after half an incense stick worth of time, Ning Qing landed on the ground. As soon as Ning Chang's feet touched the ground, a powerful axe intent directly penetrated him. However, this axe intent didn't even have 1 in a trillion of its original strength. Ning Qing easily dissolved this axe intent attack and swept out with his spiritual consciousness. The place where he stood was a long and irregular path, and the axe intent's Dao charm seemed to have no end. At this moment, Duan Guanyu also landed. Seeing Ning Qing observing, he immediately said, "Brother Ning, follow this axe line's trace for half an hour, and you will see the steel marks left behind by the invisible Dao monarch. I'll lead the way." After that, Duan Guanyu took the initiative to walk in front. Ning Chang's spiritual consciousness had already swept around and determined that there weren't any powerful trap and kill arrays or other dangers in this area. Only then did he follow. Half an hour later, Duan Guanyu stopped. On the side of this axe line trace, another crack appeared, and a rich spirit qi seeped out. Duan Guanyu gestured to Ning Cheng and took the initiative to enter this crack. This time, the two didn't walk for long before Ning Cheng saw a real stone arch. Next to this stone arch, there was a huge stele with 3 words engraved on it, Northern Prince Mansion. Without waiting for Ning Cheng to ask, Duan Guanyu took the initiative to explain. Jiaoyang Sea was originally the territory of Dao monarch Jiaoyang. Dao monarch Jiaoyang didn't have many children, only 3 sons. Northern Prince Mansion is the immortal cave of Dao monarch Jiaoyang's second son, Nie Xiu. Because Nie Xiu made a mistake, Dao monarch Jiaoyang wanted to expel Nie Xiu from Jiaoyang Sea. In the end, it was Nie Xiu's mother who pleaded for leniency and finally allowed Nie Xiu to live under the Jiaoyang Sea. Formless Dao monarch and the Jiaoyang North King Nie Xiu are friends. He just happened to be struck by the axe line here and was plotted against by others. That's why he escaped to the North King mansion. Ning Cheng nodded and walked through the stone arch. Behind the stone arch was a small rockery, which was still intact. From this, Ning Cheng could see that this North King called Nie Xiu did not have a good life. Passing through the rockery, Ning Cheng saw a dusty bluestone road. There were already several rows of footprints on the bluestone road. It was obvious that many people had already arrived here. Brother Ning, these footprints, in addition to me, Brother Mang and junior apprentice sister Wan, there are also 2 other people who came here. These 2 people are very strong. Duan Guanyu on seeing Ning Cheng looking at the footprints took the initiative to explain. When Ning Cheng's spiritual consciousness swept in, it could only sweep through a bead curtain door. His gaze fell on the rows of footprints, and his heart relaxed a little. From these footprints, he could tell that the other 2 people Duan Guanyu mentioned were not stronger than him. Crossing the bluestone road, Ning Cheng took out several array flags and threw them out. Ning Cheng easily broke through the restrictions on the bead curtain door, causing Duan Guanyu, who was following behind Ning Cheng, to feel secretly startled. The reason why he could escape was that in addition to using escape talismans, he was also proficient in the Tao of array formations. When he arrived at this place, he discovered that his knowledge of the Tao of array formations, compared to Ning Cheng's, was just too far apart. Entering the bead curtain door, there was a stone wall engraved with words. Seeing these stone walls, Ning Cheng finally understood why Duan Guanyu knew so much. Everything that Duan Guanyu knew was engraved on these stone walls. We were trapped here before, how come Mang Yong and Shen Xiuying disappeared? Duan Guanyu looked at the stone house in doubt. They are here. Ning Cheng said as he walked to a corner of the stone house and raised his hand to throw out a few array flags. After throwing out these array flags, another door appeared in front of the 2 of them. The 2 of them had just seen this door when a loud, boom, sound erupted. This time, Duan Guanyu saw clearly that there was a larger stone room hidden inside. In the middle of this stone room was a jade bed. Looking at it, one could vaguely see a shadow on the jade bed, but one's spiritual consciousness could not sweep in. Mang Yong and Shen Xiuying were attacking the jade bed, and there was a man and a woman on the left and right of them. Ning Cheng did not know the man and the woman, but he knew that they were monitoring Duan Yong and Shen Xiuying. The explosion just now was caused by Mang Yong and Shen Xiuying's attacks. A crack had already appeared on the jade bed's restriction, and it would probably take another half an incense stick worth of time to completely blast it open. Dao friend Ning. Mang Yong and Shen Xiuying were surprised to see Ning Cheng. They did not expect that Duan Guanyu would find a helper to help them, let alone Ning Cheng. When the man and woman monitoring Mang Yong and Shen Xiuying saw Ning Cheng come in, they immediately blocked the exit. Apparently, they did not intend to let Ning Cheng and Duan Guanyu out again. Ning Cheng did not care. Both of them were middle-stage primordial chaos cultivators, which was nothing in his eyes. He could even kill Tao integration cultivators, let alone primordial chaos cultivators. What a strong helper. He's an early-stage primordial chaos expert. Impressive, impressive. The man looked at Duan Guanyu with a hint of disdain in his eyes and contempt in his tone. Duan Guanyu's heart sank. He had always guessed that Ning Cheng was a late-stage primordial chaos sacred emperor, but he had not expected Ning Cheng to be an early-stage primordial chaos sacred emperor. What really disappointed him was that the other party had seen through Ning Cheng's cultivation level, which was obviously far above Ning Cheng's. Mang Yong and Shen Xiuying also looked at Ning Cheng in surprise, especially Mang Yong. He was sure that Ning Cheng had only been a late-stage Dao transformation cultivator when he had first seen him. How long had it been? Ning Cheng had become an early-stage primordial chaos cultivator. Such a speed would probably be difficult to find in the entire universe, right? Unless there was a time array. No, even if there was a time array, it would not work. After Dao validation, cultivation relied on the perception of heaven-earth law and the accumulation of Dao, not the accumulation of time. Unless there was a time array that contained heaven-earth law, it would not work. Although he was shocked, Mang Yong did not say much. These two uninvited guests had broken into this place and were very clear about Ning Cheng's cultivation level. Their strength was obviously higher than Ning Cheng's. Even if Ning Cheng was an early-stage primordial chaos cultivator, he was afraid that things would not end well today. After saying that, the man turned to Duan Guanyu and said, "You don't have to use the escape talisman in your hand. I've already used the top-notch space array disc to confine the space here. You managed to escape once, so don't even think about it a second time." Before the man could finish his words, Duan Guanyu's escape talisman was activated. After an escape flare flickered, Duan Guanyu's entire body became illusory. However, a moment later, his figure condensed again. The escape talisman in his hand had already turned into flying ashes. At that moment, Duan Guanyu's face turned pale. If he had known that these two people could confine the space, he would never have come here again. "Daoist Mang, is this the remains of Dao Lord Invisible?" Ning Cheng asked Mang Yong. Mang Yong knew that there was no hope of escaping, but he still said, "This is where Dao Lord Invisible died. As for whether the remains inside belong to Dao Lord Invisible, I don't know. I found this secret from a cultivator who came out of the Great Change Realm, which is why I asked you to come here. I heard that the Devil Scroll, Dao Scroll, and Earth Scroll of the Invisible Cultivation Technique are here." Ning Cheng didn't know if the Earth Scroll was here, but he was sure that the Devil Scroll and Dao Scroll weren't here. After all, these two scrolls were with him. How could they be in this place? Don't be long-winded. Since there are two more here, the four of you will attack this jade bed together. Attack the DUI position, or die. The woman directly interrupted Mang Yong's words and pointed to Ning Cheng. Ning Cheng raised his hand and slapped her. The woman didn't even finish her threatening words when she saw a palm print coming towards her. Furious, she immediately circulated her Dao runes and wanted to fight back. However, she immediately discovered that something was wrong. After Ning Cheng's palm print came over, the space around her had been completely sealed. She couldn't move at all. At that moment, the woman's expression suddenly changed. How was this a primordial chaos sacred emperor? This was clearly a Dao integration expert. Which primordial chaos sacred emperor had such a terrifying domain binding? Slap! Ning Cheng's slap landed on the woman's face, causing her to spit out a mouthful of teeth. Her Dao runes collapsed, and her cultivation level dropped rapidly. She looked at Ning Cheng in horror and said with a trembling voice, You crippled my cultivation." The other man also reacted at that moment. Ning Cheng's strength was far from what he could compare to. When Ning Cheng made his move just now, he clearly saw it, but he couldn't help at all. The next moment, he reached out and pinched the mark on his finger. A faintly discernible trace of Dao runes rushed out, and Ning Cheng couldn't stop it in time. Seeing that his message for help had been sent out, the man looked slightly relieved and said, "Senior, it was my fault for offending you just now. Senior, please be magnanimous and let this junior off this time. If this junior's elders come, they will definitely reward you handsomely." Ning Cheng didn't even bother to pay attention to this man. When he saw the trace of Dao runes in this message, he knew that this middle-stage primordial chaos man's background shouldn't be small. Therefore, he wasn't afraid. In order to avoid greater hatred, he didn't continue to make a move. Instead, he turned to the jade bed again and raised his hand to grab it. Seeing that Ning Cheng had ignored him, the man felt slightly relieved and retreated to the woman's side. However, he didn't leave. With a crack, The jade bed's restriction, which Mang Yong and Shin Xiuying had been attacking for 4 hours, easily cracked under Ning Cheng's grasp. Sure enough, there was a skeleton on the jade bed. The skeleton held a leather scroll in its hand, and next to it was a simple and unadorned ring. When Ning Cheng's spiritual consciousness landed on the ring, he knew that it was an extremely high-level 5-element world. Ning Cheng raised his hand and grabbed the leather scroll. He was already sure that this skeleton wasn't Tao Lord formless. This skeleton's strength was far from the creation realm.